Hello, welcome to Word of the Horde, that famous podcast. I'm Dan. Joining me as always is Chris. This was a conversation that was recorded last year in the height of lockdown. We're going to talk about all sorts of things that went on in the month of June 2020. Remember that fun time? Yeah? So enjoy that. I don't know why anyone wants to listen to our opinion on that time period. It's just for us, really, this. It's just for us, so we don't go insane from being locked in houses for a year. Well, Chris lives on a boat, but you get the point. Just good luck, people. Good luck! Go ahead. So
So
what?
I woke up today to some fantastic text messages from you. I was just like, Jesus, Dan, let me get up. I went into my phone and I'm like, oh, fucking hell, Dan, I've literally just woken up. And it's like riots in London, Prince Andrew being arrested, whatever that third one was. I was just like, Jesus Christ. I looked at them all. Like, I actually watched some Prince Andrew videos today, which we could talk about. And
Yeah, disbanding the Minneapolis Police Department or something, wasn't it?
I heard about that as well. Yeah, I heard about that. Like I said, I watched a few like riot stuff, but it tends to come out the day after, doesn't it? So it's like,
I've had enough of it now. Like, it's like, I get it. Riots are happening. I get it. It's too much.
yeah, exactly. So, like I say, and I do find it very, very interesting, but it's kind of hard to find it on the day that it's happened. It's sort of like you say, it tends to be released during that day, and then it'll tend to pop up tomorrow for me. But I watched the John Boyega speech that he gave, which was quite interesting. That was
Yeah.
quite cool and quite sort of powerful, very kind of what did it remind me of? It reminded, I mean, obviously it reminded me of, but it reminded me of Pacific Rim. You know, like the speech he gave in that. It was a little bit of one of those. I was like, yeah, go on, mate, go on, son. Especially coming from an Englishman, it's just his voice with like that kind of sort of 60s gangster voice that he's got, that Londoner.
We are cancelling the apocalypse.
Yeah, it gets in the apocalypse. Yeah, it was. It did have that sort of feel to it. It was
That was
just,
his dad.
but
The
but no,
original.
yeah, it was his dad, but still. But no, like I say, I still thought it was interesting. I thought it was good that he decided to stand up and sort of stand up for the cause and make a speech and stuff. So that's quite good because, like I've said, I think they need a face. They need somebody to follow that's going to have a positive vision, sort of thing.
Well, I know I was being very cynical about it last time with him being an actor and all that, but why wouldn't you stand up?
Well, and also he's trained and confident enough to speak in front of people. People are going to listen to him just because of who he is. He's going to use
He's got a
like it's a
profile.
positive way to use an influence. Yeah, exactly.
It's an
So
amazing way to use your fame.
yeah, and there's an aspect that actors are a bit narcissistic. They want to be the face of who doesn't want to be the face of a revolution, especially if it's something you honestly believe in.
But that's kind of what I thought. It's like, why wouldn't you be like that in this situation? It's like, well,
Yeah.
it's not like it's not like anyone's gonna get hurt him doing it, you know what I mean? At best, the world
Mm.
gets better,
Yeah.
or, or at worst, it stays the same.
Yeah. And like I say, he put something on the line in order to do it. You know what I mean? It was a gamble as much as anything. So yeah, it was good.
Sure.
But yeah, obviously, like England's a very different sort of place, and I think although there will still be some like rioting and stuff like that, I think it'll be a different. Like, weirdly enough, today my searches have led me down to the Hong Kong protests last year, and I watched loads of stuff about the Hong Kong protests. I did not realize how insane they were last year.
Mm.
I mean, they went
Yeah,
all the way up to like December last year, but they were as bad as the stuff you've seen in America. It
yeah,
was absolutely crazy. But the well, it started off like protests, but they very soon became like quite like hardcore. Um, Less riot, less looting, more like just anarchy type people. But they were
yeah.
so advanced, like they knew where cameras were, so they're spraying out cameras because obviously they're very worried about being tracked by the Chinese government. Um, and they like wrap their phones and their IDs in tinfoil, and they do things where they do like a protest somewhere, and when the police start to raid, they all leave and they know where they're going. They've got like I don't know, it's not like um Snapchat, but it's that sort of thing that they're using.
Yeah.
They're using like this message board, all the protesters, to say, right, we're going to this place, and they all jump on the subway to escape the cops, go to the other place, and then start something big there, and then the cops get pulled over there, and then they go and do something big everywhere. And like twice, the cops have had to like completely retreat from the streets and just let them finish the night, and then they'll continue into the next day, sort of thing, because they've been overrun. And then it was going into all like in December, the riots at Hong Kong airport. Very interesting. Like like I know we've talked. I don't want to get into this stage of the conversation just yet, but we've talked about the conspiracy of the virus and everything like that. It's like, you know, if they wanted any way to lock people down and lock them in, because from what it looked like in December, it wasn't stopping anytime soon, and they've been writing since like June to December,
Right.
like nightly, and like as like I say, as insane as any of the ones in America. The only difference is the cops were very brutal, but they weren't, to begin with at least, they weren't as bad with the press. But there was some pretty messed up stuff, and they started shooting people, and you know, a couple of people got shot by cops that are just, you know, because they had their smoke guns and their rubber bullets and stuff, but then
Right.
occasionally some of them had a revolver on them, and then got like cornered and stuff and started shooting people and stuff. It was insane. But it was fascinating to see the tie, like the kind of mirror image in America now, how lots of the same sort of key points are happening. Like, you know, like the protests are there, then the police start to instigate, or you know, the protest, the violence starts to happen, and then the next time there's a protest, they've got different rules, and it keeps changing to the point where, like I say, this just evolved into people going out, and like you'd see them on the streets. They had like these massive catapults that they're like homemade catapults that they'd made,
Okay.
but what people would do is all the protesters would have umbrellas, obviously to stop smoke bombs and pellets and stuff. But also they'd crowd around somebody doing something on the floor, and then these guys would get all kitted up, like with like gas masks and full heads to in black, and then
Hmm.
go fight with the police. But there'd be like groups of 30 or 40 of them. They'll get covered up so they couldn't get spotted, and then they'd get so they couldn't tell who it was, and they'd go fight with the police. Or they'd set up a big catapult thing, and then all these guys would disperse with the umbrellas, and he's got these fucking catapults that are shooting Molotov cocktails at the police and stuff. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. It's like it's guerrilla warfare on the streets of Hong Kong.
Urban environment.
Urban, yeah, in urban environments with like, or like say, the police were overrun on multiple occasions, and even they were saying like the generally like Hong Kong's quite a peaceful place. Like there is police brutality, but the police aren't usually, especially around cameras, are not quick to violence. But they come out in riot gear and beating people and tasing people and obviously gas
Hmm.
people. They were even shooting people with water hose. But what they did is because all these protesters were trying not to be tracked, they put dye in the water. So when they hosed people, they got covered in like a blue dye, and
Hmm.
obviously then they could be like, "Well, you've got blue dye on you. You were at that protest." But they did bits where they like raided a whole subway and just went in and started beating the living hell out of people, did the cops and stuff. But to be honest, like when you look at like they were talking to some of the like the heavy, like the big, like the ones that were like they're all black, they were called like black shirts or something, but they were the guys that get
Right.
the anarchy done, sort of thing, the fires and the building barricades and stuff. And this woman, it was for Sky News, weirdly enough, but it was quite informative. uh, Not that they can't be mutually exclusive, but you know. uh, but but they were talking to him and they were like, you know, they're like, one of them's the son of a cop, one of them was a banker, one of them's something else. And they're like, they're not anarchists. They're not these people that you think you'd expect to be doing this rioting and, you know, this thing. They're just normal people. They're normal, average people. And they're just trying to stand up. And it all happened over an agreement with communist China and Hong Kong that China could extradite criminals to China. So basically they could come in and go, we don't like your political image. We're taking you back to China. Blah, blah, blah. Whereas Hong Kong's
Yeah.
obviously kind of separate, and it started with that, and then turned into like a brutality, you know, like very much like the kind of cloudiness of the Black Lives Matter sort of thing. It's not just about Black lives; it's about police brutality. It's about, you know, like reform. It's about education, and you know, all the different things that started to come out about that. But as violent in December, 6 months into the protest, as America is now. America obviously a bit quicker. They
Hmm.
like to get shit done.
Yeah.
But yeah, fascinating, really interesting. Because I was looking at it, I was like, when was this? Thinking it was now, and I was like, oh, it's a year ago. I'm like, shit, they started it. Obviously, there was the yellow jackets at the time, and you know,
Hmm.
so protesting has been like the kind of thing for a couple of years. It just feels like it's very much in the forefront because I didn't know half the stuff I saw about Hong Kong. It was fascinating.
Well, I think a lot of that's suppressed, isn't it? You know, I mean, we don't hear a lot of that coming out of Hong
Yeah,
Kong.
and also it's it doesn't sort of like, it's one thing for police brutality. Like if you go, oh, police brutality in New York City, for example, I'm like, well, I've never been to New York City. I'm not going to be go to New York City. I'm probably not going to be brutalized. And likewise in Hong Kong, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, if the police in Hong
Mm,
Kong are brutal, it's like, that's terrible for the people of Hong Kong and people should stand up or whatever. But it's not going to affect me. I'm not going to Hong Kong anytime soon. Whereas obviously the Black Lives Matter is a worldwide more of a movement in that sense. But
mm.
yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting. I saw some strange correlations where they were protesting. It was coming up to like the Remembrance Day of the Chinese Communist Party or something stuff like that, and like the days leading up to that during the protest, they were like the cops really got really violent and beat the crap out of people and arrested something like 400 people on the night, and 80% of them had to go to hospital or something like that. It was like they gave these sort of stats. It was some like ridiculous number leading up to this day, because they knew the protests on that day were going to be the worst ones, and they're trying to get rid of some of the instigators and some of the leaders and stuff like that, like the days leading up to it and stuff. And obviously that same sort of thing is going to happen in America on like Pride Day or whatever. Well, July 4th is Independence Day, right? So
Well, the crazy thing about that with Hong Kong, that's not even racism involved. That's
no,
just
yeah, right.
that's just the same people being angry at
Mm-hmm.
each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is almost the same issues, but added to it racism as well.
Yeah. There was some really messed up bits in it, because obviously I mean, like generally in Hong Kong, like I say, their techniques was like technically more advanced than the ones in the protest. Like they were much more savvy about like
Mm,
um government watch, and like they were saying how the 5G towers in Hong Kong are hidden in traffic lights, and they believe it's part of a surveillance program. So they're like, every traffic light this protest came to us, they just take it down and
mm.
smash it to pieces. And like all the cameras, and they had like laser, everyone had a laser pen to shine at the cameras and stuff, so they couldn't be tracked. And all had their phones.
They know how to act in China there, don't they?
Oh yeah, they know, like I say, they knew what they were doing, like, and making catapults and shit, and making barricades and lighting them on fire, and yeah, it was pretty crazy, to be honest.
Mm.
So yeah, it was, like I say, it was pretty fascinating to watch some of it and just kind of think like, it just seems to be spreading. It seems to, like, I don't think this is going to die down. I think like a lot of the people, like, they have the right to protest, and as long as they don't get violent, but I just don't think,
I mean,
which I think is fair, but I think it's just like, I think this is going to be a movement that politicians stuff aren't going to be able to handle with politics.
I think potentially now with social media and almost the social movements we've had with all like trans and LGBTQ and all that, whatever,
Yeah,
whatever,
LGBTQ. Yeah.
whatever they're doing, like, and all of them, all the movements, there's so many, I
Hmm.
think because that has changed society, it's kind of like, I just don't know. I mean, there's been so many protests over the century and
Hmm.
so on, the last century anyway.
Yeah.
It's just, I was watching this thing and it's just, like this has been happening every like sort of 20 years or something. There'll be like just a massive explosion of stuff like this. And
Oh yeah.
it's almost the exact same thing. Even in like the 60s when, the Summer of Love, you hear that,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you've heard of that.
Like
Well,
69 or something like that.
69, like, yeah, that's it. That's like the white
Summer of
version.
69. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the white version. For black people in America, that was the summer of civil rights
Well,
and
the 69 riots. Yeah. Yeah. Or the 67 riots. Yeah. Yeah.
absolute chaos. Such a bizarre sort of thing that this has been going on since long before that, obviously, but back
Hmm.
then, civil rights movement, and we're still. Well, you hope that this time with the social media and all this sort of interaction that we've got, that it's almost maybe this time they might not be able to stop it.
I just think there's so many new, like, if you think in the last, well, if you think since the internet, like LGBTQ and all the other things you were talking about, like trans and um, matters of race, and
Too many letters. It's just
like, um, yeah, but also like, like the tribes that people are joined into and stuff like that. It's like so many people are unhappy with the status quo that it's eventually going to change. But obviously, like the slow progression of like evolution, or like as humans have for the last 10,000 years, 20,000 years, 50,000 years, whatever it is, since the last ice age, it's like that. It's just too fast. It moves too quickly, and people learn about stuff too quickly. It's like you might have been, if you were born in the 1940s and you were homosexual, you're lesbian or gay, it's like within your lifetime you might see 1% of evolution of that subject, whereas
Mm,
in like 2020, it's like within a month there's a whole new movement that changes the world, like the Me Too movement or something like that. It's actually like it happens instantly. It's not, we don't look back in history and go, that person was the catalyst for this thing and he treated his whatever as like his maid well, and so that created a evolution of progress in that sort of aspect of the city or whatever.
Is it like we're a brain, and because we've got all these connections now with social media, it's like the more connections, the smarter the brain, the quicker it operates?
I think there is an aspect to that, but there's also now there's like you can hear the opposition instantly,
Yeah.
and a lot of people also, rather than discussing things and taking, like, I mean, if like just correspondence wise, if me and you were having a discussion 20 years ago, well, say 30 years ago, it'd have been by letter. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Mm.
like, it might have had a phone, but we could probably talk for like an hour a night because it'd been so expensive. But we'd have had to discuss our ideas like logically and think about them and sit down and think
Certainly, we
about them.
wouldn't record it, and no one else would hear it either, though.
No, that's true. Or possibly it was written down, you'd share it with someone else and go, my thoughts on this, what do you think? Maybe you'd have a good discussion, but 2 or 3 people would be involved in any
Mm.
individual thought. And even in government, like, it'd be a handful of people rather than the entire world has their say on it. You know what I mean? So there is that aspect to it. And that, of course, is the aspect of, idiots also get their say. So, people that are
True.
ill-informed or ignorant about a subject also get to have their say, even if they don't understand it, which is, different than it ever has been.
Mm.
But yeah, I just think it's the, like say, I can sit and watch stuff that happened an hour ago on in New York City, you know what I mean, like, or Hong Kong or wherever I want. I can literally look at anywhere in the world. Someone's got a video up that running through Nigeria, and it could be live streamed. So you couldn't do that 10 years ago, let alone
Mm.
50 years ago or 60. So, but yeah, I just don't see how it's going to, like, the protests don't seem to be calming, and obviously it's very early in it, but if them Hong Kong protests are anything to go by, it just gets worse. It's just going to get more insane. They were talking to a woman whose husband was a copper, and she was discussing the fact that she's considering divorcing him because they do a thing where they release police details, like their addresses and the telephone numbers online, and then obviously they're harassed and the kids were getting like threatened and shit, like the
Mm.
protests and stuff. It was like full on warfare. It was one side against the other, like, by any means necessary type thing. And I just think, if the Black Lives Matter, if they continue with the violence, it's gonna, people are like, it's a simple thing, like, you can have no problem with somebody and then they'll punch you in the face for the rest of your life, they're your enemy. Like, there's
Yeah.
that when you're a kid, when you're a kid, someone's mean to you and you're like, you remember it forever. So these people are out in the streets that are peacefully protesting that then get, like, the crap kicked out of them or tear gassed or anything. They remember it like a war. It's like their enemy was across from them and that's their enemy
Mm.
from now on. It's like the police aren't doing anything for the
It's
image
one of
of the
the
police, are
only
they?
bit of violence that these people have ever experienced as
Mm.
well.
Which is a lot of the problem with why, like, basic discrimination with white and black people. It's like they've had mistreatment from one or the other race. Like, I've met white people in my life that are like, oh, I don't like black people because maybe once they met one and it was a bad experience, and so they assume that. Obviously, you get also like nurture and the way they're brought up and all that shit. The people that discriminate. Um, but yeah, it's like, or anything, or like you say, it could be Scousers or Scottish people or people from London. I don't like Londoners because they're all rude. Oh, how'd you know? I met one of them on a train once. He was a knobhead. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, there's actors I don't like, and I've never met them. So it's like people will find a reason to dislike someone, and I think the violence is going to cause people to just hate the other side, regardless of the outcome of this. And I think people will be willing to go out and fight for it. It's like the ones they were talking to some of the protests in Hong Kong, and they're like, do you think you can win? And they're like, no, I think there's like maybe a 0.1% chance that we'll actually win, but we'll keep fighting until it's over. You know
Mm.
what I mean? It wasn't just a protest anymore. It was like, we're going to fight this like it's our cause now. It's like till the end.
So, I mean, this is what I was going to say then. It's like, kind of, what is the objective of the protests at this point? It's like, at what point, I
Yeah, yeah,
mean,
yeah. Hmm.
will they peter out? I don't know if they will. Perhaps they should never. So what what point are they satisfied? What demonstration? I mean, I don't know what.
Like, what's the end game of
Yeah,
it,
because
sort of
it's
thing?
not like they can come out and go, "Here is the device that you can take away." Like, go, "Thank you,
Yeah,
turn
yeah,
it off,"
exactly.
whatever they need to do. There's no accomplishing goal apart from eliminating racism, which seems like we can't we can't
put it on a rocket and shoot it into the sun.
I think it could continue until the presidential election, and theoretically, it could be ended with a change of president, change of government. But I just don't
Potentially,
think
though, if
I don't think
hang on,
Biden is the answer to that
no, but
question. Is
potentially as well in this, with all this chaos going on, there's a chance that they might not have the election.
Yeah, I know, right? Or they'll have some sort of digital election, and then there'll be like, the million conspiracies about it being a fix and government control, and especially if Trump gets back in, that'll be it. That'll just the America will burn to the ground after that. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't know. I don't know how they could do it fairly and right, and get people the opportunity to vote. And like I say, Biden is not a good option. I watched a whole couple of videos on Biden today as well, which were fascinating. Um, he's not right. He's just like, well, I watched one about the accusation of the woman he sexually harassed, and then I was watching I was watching videos on a guy who reads body language. So I watched the Prince Andrew interview with this guy
Mm.
talking about body language and specific like movements and things he was doing, and then he went on to talk with Biden about the interview that he did on, say, Sky News, I think it was, or CNN, um, where he was talking about the sexual abuse allegations or sexual misconduct, or whatever it's called, allegations, with the girl called Tara Reid, who I was thinking was Tara Reid, the actress Tara Reid. It is not. It's not that girl.
It's not
Yeah,
her. It's
I was just like,
another
that's
person.
not her at all. I was
She was
like,
a right slag, wasn't she? Like, I'm not surprised she was involved in the
I was
thing.
just like, why is he going out with her? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, she was smoking hot when she was younger, but I was just like, why was she in like any contact with him at all? And they come out, I'm like, that's not Tara Reid. I thought,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
she's let herself go. I know she did let herself go a bit, but I was just like, she doesn't look good. But yeah, it wasn't her anyway. But yeah, it was interesting because like lots of blinking, lots of like stuttering, lots of like he just bumbles like sentences.
Yeah.
He's trying to talk about a subject and he'll go off on something, and then sometimes you'll say something and he'll finish, and then you still have no idea what he was trying to say. It's just this bumbling mess. So yeah, it's either him or Trump, and I'm just like, good luck, America. It's like, like the no man left behind. It's like we can leave America behind because it's just gonna burn to the ground, and then whatever comes back out of the ashes, the phoenix that rises, then like the rest of the world can get on with them. But at the moment, it's just a hot. Like I can't see any positive outcome from it at all. I don't know how they'll deal with it. Second lockdown, second countrywide lockdown for America, I think.
You think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how it's going to go. I think it'll be like martial law because they're already curfewing people. So it's already kind of implementing them ideals, and I just think they'll martial law it and then start shooting people, and then who knows, maybe more riots, maybe like fighting on the streets. So yeah, it's pretty messed up. I did see some interesting videos. There were some guys that were like, they were American guys, and they were basically just going out protecting shops, but armed to the teeth.
Yeah.
But they weren't starting fights or anything. They were standing in front of the shops with like AK-47s and stuff, and like, protest all you want, don't come near the shops. And they weren't like, they were just like, if we can get enough of us, we can protect everything. And but they were chilled about it. They weren't like, we don't want to shoot anybody, obviously, but they were just like, we need to stop people raiding shops.
There's a lot of small towns around America that are predominantly white, I imagine, where they've
Yeah,
been
of course,
dying.
yeah.
The guys dying to get out there and stand on a street corner with a gun, just to be like, I'm protecting my shop.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, yeah. And there'll be guys that are just, the second they start, it's like finally. But at the same time, these guys they didn't seem to be want to instigate anything. They were just like, like we agree with the movement. We just think like, trying to push away like the negative aspect of it, like the actual looting and stuff, especially like local shops and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I
I think
mean,
that's going to be a thing.
it's one of them now. It's just come to the point. It's kind of like really, I guess it's like it was shocking the other day. I was, seeing a lot of the violence and seeing all that, and then even seeing a lot of the looting. You kind of had mixed feelings, or I did anyway. And I'd feel 1 minute, I'd watch a bunch of videos of looting and violence against people that predominantly by
Yeah,
black
like old
people,
people or something. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and stuff like that. But civilians in the riots. doing violence on other people, and I started to get
Yeah.
really angry, and then looting and stuff, and I got angry and thinking, "You fucking knobheads, what you doing?" And you
Hmm.
deserve to get smacked. And then you actually see them getting smacked by the police, and you think, "Jesus Christ, what are you doing? That's fucking way over the top."
Well, that's the thing. It's like, as well as like, if you turned up to your first protest and you were like peaceful as fuck and then got your head kicked in, you'd be like, I'm going out again tomorrow and I'm going to get me a TV. You're like, fuck this guy, Like I can see how these people just be like, well, fuck them. Like if they're going to treat me that way when I'm peaceful anyway, because that's definitely happening. There's definitely that, I think, and especially again watching the Hong Kong riots, it seemed more people were becoming active, like more proactive with the aggression once the more the protest went on, because they were
Yeah.
just like, no, like we started off peaceful, like it was peaceful protests, and they like I say, they show it quite well on this thing on YouTube, and it is obviously one perspective. But and then obviously they tend to kind of progress and they go, you know what, actually, and they become more militarized and they become more militant and they become more anarchistic, because they're just like, well, the system obviously doesn't work, like like we're allowed to protest, but when we do, we get our head kicked in. It's like, yeah, you can do what you want, like pick up the gun, that's what it is. It's like,
Mm.
pick up the gun, you know what I mean? Like, it's Clint Eastwood. It's like, I'm going to shoot you, but you need to play by my rules to shoot you. So yeah, pretty messed up.
Well, this is what I mean, and it's like kind of, well, responding to like protests on police violence with just battering people across the head and shooting tear gas into the face. It's like, well, that kind of proves the point, doesn't it?
It could have been done on day one. Police could have sat down with the protesters on day one, and I'm sure, like, and just said, look, nobody riot, like as long as you don't riot, we're going to sit here peacefully, and just did that on like day one, put down the batons and just did that. And if everyone across America had done that on day one, there would have been some riots, but like I think the protests would have calmed down, and then the rioters could have been dealt with, and I think the protesters would deal with a lot of the riots. But rather than kind of just stepping back and then when it obviously kicked off, coming in and just nailing everybody, I mean, hindsight's 2020, but
Like I said last time, I don't think, yeah, things like that can't be organized because there's always people, there's
not
individuals.
yet, not in it. Again, this is like the coronavirus. We're in it. We can't deal with it from inside the problem. You know what I mean? Like we're inside the problem. Once the problem's dealt with, they'll talk about how it could have been improved and stuff. But we're in it. We're in the middle of it. So who knows?
That's what I mean. But I guess the whole thought, like I said, about mixed feelings. At some points, I was thinking, oh fucking hell, they deserve what they're getting, kind of, for being
Hmm.
so violent. I mean, the police, like, then other times I'm thinking, well, you can't insurrect like that because they will just smash your face in because they're the power. But I don't know, it's kind of a differing opinion, and I just think
No, no, yeah,
ultimately.
no. I see where you're coming from, though.
And I just think that ultimately, regardless of anyone's feelings and anyone's evidence of like, look, this is black people doing violence on innocent white people and blah, blah, blah. It's like, whatever. At the end of the day, this shit has to stop. Like, not, I mean, just in general, this shit in society,
Violence, yeah. Just like this bully mentality and this brutal.
police state stuff, all of it. It's like, it just has to be dealt with. It's like it can't carry on because it's just, I can't even imagine when I think, like, obviously, it's what's been the best thing is like just how much this has made you think.
Oh yeah. Oh no, 100%. It's really like, especially sat here doing nothing. It's really put like the world in perspective and other people's like viewpoints and stuff like that. Especially like say the black community and their struggle. It really has. No, yeah. I feel like I've been educated in a bit.
That's it, and it's and honestly, yeah, I've heard lots of people's story, and there was one black woman, she's probably well known. I don't know her name. I can't remember off the top of my head, but she was on the street and she was just screaming and shouting a bit about, but it was kind of just preaching a bit, and she was just saying the
Hmm.
reason we're out here smashing stuff up, and they're saying people are saying don't smash your homes, don't burn your things, and it's like we don't. And she was going, we don't fucking own anything. What are you talking about? It's like we're smashing up fucking places and shops because we're just like we don't own any of this shit. Go fuck yourself. It's like we've been oppressed for so
Hmm.
long that we don't fucking have anything. So this is just an angry lashing out, And if you want it to stop, society has to change. And it's like it's kind of for that kind of feeling to be just in your heart all the time.
Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That kind of underlying things. Yeah, yeah. Well, like that's the thing as well. It's like if you always feel like, I mean, even if you're socially anxious and you always feel like outside of the group and like lesser than people,
Mm,
it puts you into a depression or a type of a mindset that's gonna completely change your perspective and completely change your outcome, your expectations, and your actions. So
Mm.
yeah, no, I get that. I did see an interesting video about a black woman who was at the protest, and she was kind of protesting the protest, I guess. She was screaming at them, saying that they're all like, this is a new type of racism. She was like, I'm a black woman, but I'm independent. I don't feel like I've ever been oppressed and all this sort of stuff. Kind of saying basically like, I am who I am. I like my life. I made myself, sort of thing. And people are arguing with her from the protest, as you'd expect, but all the people that were arguing, or at least all the people that were on this video, were white people saying, you don't know what you're talking about, get out of here, it's like, why are you even here, and all this stuff. I'm like, surely that's, like I say, for someone from my point of perspective that is getting an education, getting an understanding of the world, a better understanding of the world, or at least, a different understanding of the world, through this whole, well, through the last 3 months with the quarantine, and then of course this, then I'm just like, for me, I'd be inclined to talk to that lady and say, well, what do you mean? Like, what's your perspective on this? Because as a black woman, she's going to have a perspective that's going to, yeah, it varies from the majority, but at least it's like, there's going to be different points of views within their argument, within their culture and
Yeah.
everything. But they weren't. They were like kind of rejecting her and telling her to fuck off and all this sort of stuff. I'm just like, you kind of like, just because she's not part of your tribe, like, this is the issue with police. It's like the fact that they're like, all police are pigs and all this sort of shit. It's like, I get it, and I understand the mentality. I've listened to rap music my whole life. I get that. Like, there's a very like vivid picture in some rap music, especially something like Immortal Technique, where you're like, I kind of get that your life is very much darker than mine, and the police are a key point. Like, they're one of your monsters, and that's like that may sound like a silly thing to say, but I think if anybody has ever listened to rap music, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. You're like, their life is different than mine. So it's like, so yeah, but it's just like, there's going to be different points of view, but at the same time, it's like, if you just choose your tribe and stick to your tribe, it's only the same as sticking to a political party or sticking to an idea, because you don't get to see the spectrum of color between black and white. It's just like, it's us and them. And I'm like, well, there's always going to be a balance of like ideas and perspectives within that. And it's like, that's why you need to talk it out. But at the moment, everyone's just too angry and they're still in fight mode, before you get to like sad and like thoughtful and perspective mode. It's like any argument. You have a massive row and then afterwards you spend hours thinking about it. But this is the massive row and it might take a year to deal with. And then for the next 20 years, we're going to talk about it, I hope. Or the world will burn, or aliens, or the virus will kill us all, or space, like something crashes. Tesla's car that he sent in space comes back around and destroys us. Anything could happen in the meantime. But if we survive the next 20 years, then I think there will definitely be a further discussion about this. This will be the new topic, and rightly so. I say the new topic, like the 500-year-old current topic. So, but again, another fascinating day of media. Just stuff, just like the world going, oh shit, the world. That's
I've never
fascinating.
looked at the news so much. Like,
Never in my life, never been so informed about politics and viruses and fucking like social justice, and never have I been more thoughtful about other people's feelings. So yeah. It's fascinating. It's good though. It's good. It gives me something to do. It's like, it's kept me occupied. These last couple of days have gone sort of slower because there's more to it, but it's kept my brain occupied with, and I feel like there's no doubt now that people are going to come out of the quarantine. The people that are locked in. Well, I say that again. I still think there's not much being reported on current, like, proper news. Unless you start watching CNN 24/7, then I don't think you're going to be seeing this, or whatever, CNN, Sky News, fucking InfoWars, whatever it is. You're not going to see anything like alternative about this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I find the thing I find most fascinating is the attack on media, the attack on the news people, and all that sort of stuff. Because you would think that the dictatorship type side of it, the police and the government and stuff, would want to keep the story on them, and you'd think that's what you think, because the media are getting attacked, they're going to report more stuff. But a lot of stuff you see on TV is still like positive towards the police and the actions and stuff. There's still like quite a an imbalance between like the actual story. It still seems to be very positive towards the government and the outcome and stuff. Although everyone hates
I mean,
Trump.
I haven't really watched the news. I've just been like sort of watching, reading articles on Twitter, really.
Mhm.
Leaked on Twitter. I don't know what real take the news networks are taking on it and as they report, but
It just seems like they're saying like like protest. Basically, they're arguing or at least the English ones and the ones like I say I watched a couple of clips from Sky News and CNN and stuff. But they're saying sort of they support the protests, they support the idea, but obviously the violence is bad, and the cops are doing everything they can to do it. But there's also issues with the violence with the cops. But a lot of the stuff is the stuff like you said, like this police station is, shutting down, or these cops. It's like you saw that video of the old man getting pushed over and smack his head on the floor, and then the guy kind of goes down to get him and they move him on. Well, they apparently the two police officers involved in that were fired, and as a result, the rest of the quick response team quit. But they only quit from the quick response team, and I'm like, well, at this point in time, surely they're still going to be out on the streets then, because every cop is going to be out on the streets. They're not. It's not like it's just the quick response team. There's not fucking 10,000 of those dudes. So it's like they got fired from a part of their job, but they're still doing their job.
Technically, the quick response team have responded now, and so there's no need for a quick response anymore
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's ongoing. It's like
Yeah.
there's protests happening. You don't need to quick response anymore.
Exactly. They know it's going on. They know
You've already
tomorrow it's going to be
responded.
going on. Yeah,
You're there
exactly.
constantly now.
So yeah, I just thought it was kind of like one of them things where it's not even a story. It's like half a story. It's like the idea of a story. It's like they quit from something that makes no difference to their current thing, and they were fired from this thing that they have no.
That's like saying I've quit. I've quit from attending the morning meetings.
Yeah.
That's basically it. It's just they've just stopped doing an aspect of their job and they've gone back to doing the normal part.
Yeah. So yeah, it just seems like a bit of an unusual thing. But like I say, the one in that other city, they were saying they're going to disband the police, but whether they do or not in
Minnesota.
what is it, Minnesota? Yeah, because I'm like Minneapolis, Missouri. Like every time I think of it, I'm like Michigan. No, it's not that one. So yeah, but yeah, apparently they're all quitting, so that's interesting. Or they're all being fired or being retrained or something.
This is it. I've just sort of that one in Seattle with the guy driving the car through the crowd.
Oh, when he pulls out the gun, shoots the guy, and then leaves his car, because you would think he would just reverse then, because he's already just shot somebody. He's not bothered about running someone over.
Yeah.
That would be my thinking. But he sits there for a second and then fucks off into the crowd. Yeah, white
People
dude.
just running off, pointing at him and that.
Yeah, but even the way he escaped into the crowd, it was like you would think if he was just a normal guy and he drove down the street, it was like, fuck this, what's going on? Like, why he did it? Like, he looked like he was going to plow into him and then kind of chickened out and then shot somebody. Like, because he drove fast towards them, like, because he must have known they're not going to get out of the way. There's 20,000 people there. They're not going to let a car through. So, like, the idea of driving down there in the first place is to kind of instigate something, it seemed. Like, it looked like it was going to be him plowing through a crowd of people.
I got the impression before the video started is when he'd hit people further down the road,
Right.
and then
Maybe
he drove up to that point, and like maybe his tires had been burst or something. At that point, he couldn't go any further because there was that guy with that big barrier or something in his way.
Yeah, there was something in his way. Yeah.
Someone had shoved it in his way, and then the guy jumped in his front window
and started smashing him. Yeah.
And
he did start attacking him.
I think that's the guy he shot, didn't he?
Yeah, that's the guy he shot. Yeah.
In the arm.
But,
I always think it's always weird when you actually see a shooting. It's always like, how did you fail to kill that guy?
Yeah, but it's a struggle. Like, he's pulling his gun from his holster. It's a struggle, and he probably took a shot, and the guy went back instantly. He didn't he didn't have time to light up. He's not John Wick. Like, but one thing I did think was quite interesting is when he got out of the car, the way he left was like an exfiltration. It was like he moved through the crowd. He looked back, like even the way he looked, it looks kind of trained in some way. Like like the way he moved into the crowd and then he kind of disappeared off into the crowd, even though he was being followed. It was like for me, it'd be like run away from everybody now because this 10,000 people are going to be against you. But his idea was like to disappear into them.
It's like
it was like the opposite of what.
He hitmaned off into the crowd.
Exactly.
Through the fucking crowd. Yeah. And it's like he didn't run immediately.
He didn't run. He didn't start smashing through people. And
it's like he ran a little bit until he was about 10 yards from the car, and then he kind of slowed down, and like so people
Yeah.
automatically in that area weren't aware of him because he wasn't sprinting or anything. And then he
Yeah.
kind of just shuffled away, and people were kind of pointing and following. But because he had a gun
Mm.
still, I assumed didn't want to get too close.
I'm seeing people get out of the fucking way. Yeah.
Did you see the
But
close
yeah,
up of him?
no.
There was someone had took a close up like of the zoomed the fucking photo they'd taken in, and his gun had it was like I don't know what type of gun it was, but it had a magazine protruding from the bottom.
Oh, it was taped on,
And
wasn't
it
it? It
was
was like a
taped, a
taped.
second
Yeah.
mag was taped underneath, and if
Yeah.
that is a guy who's gone out to shoot people because he's
Yeah.
you don't walk around with a gun
Yeah.
with a fucking extra mag taped to the bottom without
Yeah. With electric tape
unless
turned
you're
on. Yeah.
unloading in the next fucking 2 minutes, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, that's it. That's why, usually that's a rough, like an average about 16 to 20 shots, 20, depending on how big his magazines
That's
are.
what I
But,
mean.
it's like,
He was planning to unload that in a short
yeah.
space of time, you know.
Yeah, and that's what I think. We're like he was obviously tactically trained to be able to turn it over and to load. I mean, at least he's gone through it a drill in his bedroom at the very least. You know what I mean? But it was another one of them things like that dude with the assault rifle that took the assault rifle off the other guy and then disappeared back into the crowd. There's a few bits like that where you're like, some trained motherfuckers are in these cases. You know, like that guy seems like he was a bit somewhat trained. Although he wasn't holding his gun close to his chest like John Wick, but he was kind of waving it around a bit more. But yeah, it was just. I mean, it was bound to happen. Shooting was going to happen. Like I said, the other day I saw a guy with a bow and arrow, like a bow and arrow, and start aiming it at people that were smashing up his car. Why they're smashing up people's car, I don't fully understand the concept of it, other than like obviously you can't go through here, and people are trying to push through. But when they're on the motorway doing it and stopping people, it's like that doesn't like. I don't understand how that. I mean, obviously they're trying to disrupt America and disrupt traffic and stuff and disrupt trucks and stuff. But at the same time, it's like they're not going to stop, because a lot of time, if they do stop, you're kicking the shit out of the car. And if they don't stop, you're kicking the shit out of the car, but the chances are they get away. And then people are like surprised that someone's getting run over. I'm like, you jumped in front of a car. Yeah, like lots of people are jumping in front of cars at the moment. I'm like, I know not to do that. Like I get it, but I don't understand why they're kicking the shit out of cars. Because it's not their fault. The people in the cars. I mean, of course, there's going to be like rednecks and all sorts and people driving into it now. But
if you saw like a car, like a Mad Max car, come around the corner with like all sorts of spikes and weird fucking things and a big like digger thing on the front, and you'd be like,
right,
let's everyone get out of the way of this fucking car.
yeah,
Come on.
yeah. I mean, there'd probably be some people run over by mistake there, and then you could blame that guy. But because I mean, I'm imagining that crowd trying to separate, it would be
But
nigh
is this the
impossible.
point where people are going to start going, right? I'm just welding a fucking iron things on my windows and fucking and going down the street. So basically, people are going to start driving around like Mad Max.
Or driving with shotguns in their hands and stuff. Like I saw a video of a trucker breaking a roadblock, and he had, I think it was like dun 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 dun. Well, that one. I can't remember what it is, but he had like some hillbilly music on anyway. Like it wasn't like hillbilly, but it was like rock music. He had a Confederate flag on his dash, and he was just like, "Here we go!" and then took it like onto the other side, drove through a barrier, and then went onto the other side. And people were like, they were throwing shit on him and stuff. But I'm just like, who the fuck's gonna get in front of that dude? Like on his best day, that guy's probably crazy. He's probably like, yeah,
Confederate
roadblock,
flag,
mate.
everything. It's
A
like
Confederate flag, right, on his top. Yeah, right.
Waiting for this.
And a lot of the companies in America,
200
especially,
years.
it's like these truckers, man, these long road truckers, all they do is sit and listen to their own brain for like days and weeks at a time, driving across like long countries, drives across America, and then you get in their way. They're just going to be like, fuck you guys. And they've been told by the companies, just fuck them. If they put up a roadblock, go through it. So it does seem a bit counterproductive to put something like a barrier on a motorway, because it's going to instigate violence. It's like one of them things where it's like, that can't be peaceful. because people like if you stop and you trash the car, like if I was driving down the motorway and someone like there was Black Lives Matter, I'd be like, cool, let's go the other way. But if they just start trashing my car because I was there, I'd be like, guys, I'm fucking supporting you. What the fuck?
Well,
You
this
know
is
what I
it.
mean?
I think maybe you get like people whose car is parked up in the city or wherever the protest is heading towards, and they're going like, "Fuck, I've got to get my car out of here."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we're
fucking
in the
right.
middle
Because
of the protest.
if the protests don't do it, the cops might fucking smash it up. You know what I
If
mean? Like if it's on the
someone's
street,
getting smashed up, this is it. So I'm going to
yeah,
drive away, and then people are like, "Fuck off," and then they end up just going, "I'm just trying to get my car out of here," and then they just run
yeah,
someone over, and then they get pulled out and killed.
yeah. So yeah, I think that I think there'll be continuing violence, and I think it'll get to a point where there's a death count.
I'm
So
just amazed that all the guns in America, that there's just not people getting shot constantly at the moment, like people
yeah, yeah. There
shooting.
doesn't seem to be people going out rioting with guns yet, but then that just causes a whole different problem. But it's good that the police haven't started shooting yet, but I'm guessing they've got guns on hand to go at any time. Like they'll definitely have somebody sat at the back with a fucking sniper rifle. There was some reporters sat on, I think it was like the Parliament step, or like what, not Parliament, the steps in Congress. It was in DC anyway, and they were sat on these steps, and then there was actual like pew, pew, like bullets going, like hitting the bricks near a real gun going inside and shit. So someone, like either a random sniper or some police. I mean, it might have been rubber bullets, but it's
Did you
just
watch?
they
Did you
got their
watch
kind of.
that video we were watching before? The one with the like we were just talking about with the car in the background on one of the videos. I don't know. Obviously, there was a multiple ones filmed from the same apartment block.
Yeah, yeah,
One of the ones I watched, it was just this in the background. There was just this proper gay guy just going like, oh my god, he's got a gun, oh my god, oh my god," all the way through it, and the
yeah,
guy
yeah. No, that
filming,
was the one you sent me, and the guy was like, "Sorry, I didn't know that was kind of." Yeah, but he's like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna get a gun!" I'm like when he's actually on a
like, "Oh
balcony. Yeah,
god."
he might not have been gay, but yeah, it was. He did have that. He had
He
quite.
sounded like
Yeah,
the woman on, in Alien when it burst through his chest, and she's like, "Oh god."
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it was a bit of like a dramatic thing. But I mean, the people must be like super dramatic at the moment. Like in times of heightened emotion and tension, whether it's a funeral or a wedding, people are on the edge of this kind of like constant thing, and people must be terrified. Especially imagine if you live in that balcony and every day there's these crazy ass protests and smoke and fire and
I
like
would love it.
fucking.
I mean, I'm not being
I'd love to
funny.
be on the balcony. Yeah, I'd love to
Yes,
be on the
no, I'd love
balcony,
to be
just chilling
above it.
watching. Yeah.
I'm thinking,
Mm.
"This is fucking hardcore." I'd be like, "This is ace." And I mean, I wouldn't there'd be times I'd
Until
venture
somebody
out.
sets you building on, but yeah.
Well, I'd venture out every now and again, but I certainly wouldn't be involved, like, kind of in
I
the
think if you're in that position, it'd be a really good position to say, right, let's do a log on this for the next 2 weeks, and
yeah,
stuff.
just
You could just
constantly film
just
everything.
just film everything and just be like, just study it, because I think it'd be fascinating.
People in
But
those areas, though, living in, like, some of those apartments and buildings, like, right next
yeah,
to all this chaos. I mean, how many people have just literally it's turned into, like, the raid or something, those
mm.
buildings, like, it's
Oh yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah.
like, chaos and the people
Oh,
barricaded
there must be
before
there must be
the
part.
Dawn
Well,
of the Dead.
I saw one, and it was just these thugs. It was a group. I think it was 4 black dudes broke into this shop, and then the owners came down from upstairs, and it was like a white couple, but they must have been 50s or 60s, and these 4 guys just kicked the living shit out of them, basically. And I was just like, what? Who is that helping? You know what I mean? Like, and I get, again, they're angry and all that
They
stuff,
don't give a
but
shit.
it was just the
They're
criminals.
the
Yeah,
criminals. They're going
yeah,
out and
totally.
taking advantage of the chaos, which is what every
Yeah,
criminal would do. Technically, I would if I was in that business of just making
yeah,
money
criminal.
illegally,
Yeah,
being a criminal. I'd just
yeah.
be like, fucking sound. Well, this is my
But
chance
yeah,
to get
stuff like
paid.
that. I'm just like, that's not cool. So yeah, there's definitely gonna be people in the homes that just like, if they come in here, this is the plan and blah blah blah. There'll be a lot of people. But even like, I mean, especially after the quarantine, where all like the shops and everything, um, it's difficult to get food and groceries, and you have to go out and plan it and blah blah blah. And now they're like doing this lockdown, and they're changing the time of the lockdown, like 5-10 minutes before the lockdown starts, and all this crazy shit. Like if you live in an apartment down there, and you're like, right, I need to go get shopping today, and there's a protest outside. Some people just be like, I'm gonna have to go 5 miles to get my shopping, and by the time I get back, the curfew's gonna be done, and then there's gonna be like my building might be on fire, or there must be some pretty terrified just citizens,
I think,
just people.
yeah, I'd love to be
Or if you have to go to work, imagine if you go to work in DC, you'd be like, fuck that, I'll work from home.
like, I'd love to.
Yeah, so,
It'd be all right to live there if I was on my own. I certainly wouldn't like to live around there with family and
no,
people.
no, totally. Kids and stuff. Yeah, definitely. In what is like the rich area in general. Yeah, me and you just on a podcast going, if you look out the window. Yeah. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty. I mean, I just don't know how the world can get more insane. And the weird thing is, it was insane before I realized it. It was like, I've known it's always been crazy, but there's stuff like, say, with them Hong Kong protests. That was a year ago. It started like roughly June last year. And I don't know. Maybe they're still going on. Who knows? I don't know. All I know is there was a coronavirus, and now there's a riot in America, or there's protests in America.
The thing is,
But
though,
yeah, come on.
it's like it will calm down because people just don't got the energy to continue it forever. Like,
I would have said that until I
definitely.
saw these Hong Kong ones that went on for 6 months. 6 months every night for 6 months, pretty much. Like big riots, like the
Thing
riots in
is, the
America.
Asian people are way more disciplined than the Western people. Like,
Yeah, but they're usually more chilled out as well, though. Like imagine, like I mean, people might burn themselves out because they're so angry with the protests and stuff in America. And it might slowly kind of die down. But you've got to think like people are generally more angry, so it might die down a little bit and then pick up again, and then there's peaceful protests and there's riots, and then the riots get suppressed and people are still protesting and then they get suppressed, and and further arguments, like there's going to be parents and friends of people that are protesting now that like don't agree with it. They'll get convinced if their friend gets shot in the face with a gas canister and says, look, the government's doing this, or
well, yeah,
there's going to be
whatever.
lots of
Her entire family, whoever got shot in the face with a gas canister, whatever the politics of your entire family,
yeah,
they're on your side now.
they're
It's
on your
like,
side. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? And the thing is, it's like for a lot of protests, it's like the younger generation, and it is for that for the protests in America. It's a lot of the younger generation, but there's going to be plenty of like generations of black people that are like, fucking, it's about time. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like it's like there's going to be I'm sure there's a lot of
some
old people
old black
and
guys on a porch going,
yeah.
get out there and get them.
And old white
copies."
people as well, like say that guy that got decked by the police, he was just a white dude that went over to have a conversation with him, just like a person. You know what I mean? Like probably was in fucking World War II or some shit, or a fighter pilot or something, just going over like Captain America and then just gets decked. It's like it's like there's going to be like I don't think it will be just a generational thing, or at least it might not be. And Facebook and Twitter just makes people angry. Like people can wake up in the morning and go, you know what, I'm not going to protest today.
That's
I'm
the
just,
point. That's the
I'm
point. Yeah.
calm. And then by the end of the day, just be like, burn it to the ground.
Sustained anger can be created through social media. So it's like people can be angry when they go to bed and then wake up, be all right, and then look on Twitter and be angry, like you said, within 20 minutes again. And be like,
20 minutes, yeah. Like I say, I woke up this morning and it's all like the world was ending again. And I'm like, okay, I'm going for a piss. But yeah. And we saw with the coronavirus how quickly people set into a routine of staying at home. And done that for 3 months. It's like you say they'll burn themselves out. They've had 3 months of chilling, talking about shit, being pissed off and being like, the government's going to fuck us. And also there's probably people in the protest that are like, the actual world, if it continues as it is, I'm dead because I've run out of money during quarantine. It's like, I'm not going, like that world doesn't hold anything for me anymore. Like I'm economically crushed. I'm going to lose my house in a week, and they're trying to take my kids off me, or
the best option,
husband was killed by the
the
cops.
best option is to take society
best
down.
option is to burn it to the ground, and maybe there's people that go out and go, hopefully I'll get killed in the protest, because there's like I say, there's going to be a lot of different motivating factors for the people out there doing whatever they're doing.
Some people are just happy to be out. They're just like, I'm just
glad to be back out. People still exist. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then there's going to be people that are just they were pissed off because the like those white dudes last week or 2 weeks ago, previously in time, they were protesting at the city hall with all the AK-47s and the guns and shit. Them guys are going to be pissed off, so some of them might join the protests, some of them might go and shoot people, but who knows. That's what I mean. It's so hypocritical that you could have fucking 50 dudes with like assault rifles and Kevlar and shit stand in a government building and just be like, it's our right to carry arms, and then unarmed black dudes just lying in the street that get their face kicked in. You know, it's like there's such hypocrisy with it. But that's America.
America.
America. Oh,
Land
it's not
of
America.
free.
It's not America now. It's America and England and everywhere. Like I said, I watched a few of the London ones. It seemed pretty peaceful. It didn't seem too bad. There was a bit of throwing trash and bottles and
Yeah,
cans and
that's
shit at
about as bad
cops.
as it gets.
It was just a bit leery, wasn't it?
The
It was
police
just a bit.
don't even.
It was
The
like it was
police
just
don't
London,
even.
isn't it?
The police, that's it, lad. The police don't even fucking. The police don't even really wear. They're just wearing like kind of just a vest, you know, body
Yeah.
armor vest. They don't,
I
and then
think
they'll be like
also,
short sleeve t-shirt and everything. Like,
yeah,
it's badass.
I think also, I mean, obviously, like there's definitely going to be issues with the black community in England and like police discrimination, but I also think, you know, police have always been kind of dicks here, haven't they? They've always been a bit rough, you know. I mean, but
This
there's
is
always like
this
it's
is
like a fair fight. Like if you got
this
in
is
a cop with a fight with a cop, you're not going to end up dead. You're probably just going to end up with your head kicked in and then end up in the cell for a
this
couple
is
of
what I
days.
was saying. This is what I was saying. This is how it's like kind of. I think in this country we learned 1,000 years ago to kneel to the
Mm,
powers that be, and we've never really. I mean, obviously there's a black population in this country and that, but
yeah, of course.
most of us have already know the score. It's like you don't really mess with the monarch and the leaders because
Yeah.
well,
Well, you
that's
say that though, but this comes on at the same time as one of the fucking monarch's youngest kids is a paedophile. You know, it's like
oh
that's
yeah.
one thing I was thinking today. I'm like, this is all tied together. Like all like we think about, you know what
Can't
I mean?
help but
And
think
like the Epstein thing with the rich, you know what I mean? Like, because the rich seem pretty fucking silent, a lot of them at the moment. Like a lot of these celebrities and these people that were like the coronavirus and singing fucking John Lennon or whatever. It's like you don't fucking hear from them about the fucking. I ain't heard from I haven't heard from Oprah Winfrey
yeah.
at all.
Gal Gadot, where's your fucking song for this? You stupid
Yeah,
bitch.
right. And Oprah Winfrey, she's like the most famous black woman. And I know we've talked about like the conspiracy of Oprah Winfrey that she might now be on lockdown with Ellen.
It is quite shocking, actually. Yeah.
But it's fascinating that she hasn't got up and said something because it's Oprah Winfrey. Like she says shit about everything. She talks like on The View and fucking about books and philosophy and her opinion on everything. And she's had a tough upbringing and she's like a self-made black woman. You know, it's like, haven't heard shit from her, have we?
Where's
Which is
Obama?
fascinating.
Where's Michelle Obama right now? Why hasn't she
Yeah,
come out and
right.
said something? Has she said
Yeah.
anything? I don't know.
I have no idea. Not that I've
No
seen.
idea.
Not that I've seen.
You would have
I've not really
thought
seen anybody that I
well,
recognise
you would
talk
have
about it.
thought if either of those two had come out and made some kind of speech about it or a statement, you would have thought that would have been headline news, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
or spoken at a rally or something. Why hasn't Michelle Obama just turned up at a DC rally? No one's going to smash her head in. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
go
true,
make a
true.
fucking speech. I don't understand. If you're such a fucking hero.
Yeah, because I mean, a few other world leaders have come out and said bad things. You know, like get your shit together, America, basically, but in political terms. And even the Prime Minister of Canada and shit, that guy. But there was a guy who was the mayor of somewhere, and he went to a protest and was like booed out of the place. But he was a white dude, but like he looked like just a skinny, like he looked like a teenager almost. Like he was about my size, He was like quite skinny, wearing a t-shirt and some khakis. But like they were booing him, I'm like, why this? And it explained it was like the mayor of wherever one of the protests was, but it was getting booed out of the place. I'm like, oof.
Did you
Shit.
think when Trump got in and like people are angry, it's like, I mean, I knew that people, all it was divisive, but did you really
Yeah.
think it would end here?
Well,
Like,
remember, I was in California when he got in. I was in Northern California, up in the hills with all the hippies when he got in. Well, it was hippies and like, I wouldn't say white supremacists, but dudes in full head to toe camo gear all the
you
time.
don't want to get into that conversation with.
Yeah, right. So yeah. We actually played pool with them. They were all right. They got a bit aggressive, me and my brother, because we beat them at pool. But it was fine. But yeah, I mean, obviously people were like distraught. People were like it's the end of the world sort of thing. And obviously I had the argument that, I mean, who would you prefer, Hillary? And they obviously didn't want Hillary, but they think it's probably the better the devil you know or something. I don't know. But yeah, they were like, this is insane and blah blah blah. But to think there'll be a revolution. I mean, there has been people that have talked about it. There's a guy that was on the Joe Rogan podcast that talked about he thinks there'll be a civil war, and there are people that have forever have said, oh, if they don't, at some point there's going to be a rise up of like the like the younger population and stuff. And there's always been like this precedent for a revolution from the generation. But to think it happens in the modern world on the back of a pandemic.
I mean, I can't
Yeah,
believe
fuck
it's
knows.
we're talking like this could happen. Because I've been wanting something like this because there needs to be a change in society
Oh,
because
100%. Yeah,
the
yeah.
system that exists is fucking it's broken completely in every
Well,
aspect.
it's obsolete.
People,
It's obsolete.
pe-
That's the thing.
pe-
We've moved past it, whatever it was at the time, and the complexity to doing it. But it's like the age-old adage: just because you've been doing something wrong for a long time doesn't mean you should keep doing it.
yeah, it's just people are kind of like, I think, just not willing to kind of grow up and
Hmm.
in this world, all the younger
Hmm.
people especially, like, they're just like, no,
Yeah,
we're not going to grow up and then have to be the people that carry on this bullshit. It's time to make a stand, because it's maybe our generation just didn't give a shit. We just passed us by.
I think our generation. Well, I mean, the thing
We
is,
didn't
there
have
wasn't the
social media.
technology. There wasn't the technology in our generation, and also our generation came off the back of some hope with like, like we still had like tailing feeling of like the
The
baby
90s,
boomer generation off the back of the
the-
war and like like the revolution. And then the 90s was like a musical
felt
revolution.
felt better the
People start to be a
90s.
bit more punk again. And it's like from 2000 onwards though, it just seemed to be a bit, it seems to have steadily got worse into like a crescendo at the end. Well,
Well,
last
you
20
can
years.
almost put it out and say, like, yeah, maybe that's the plan. It's like 9/11 onwards. That's the plan, wasn't it? I
Yeah,
think.
I mean, like for my self-consciousness, my id or ego, whatever the fuck Freud would call it. But like my consciousness kind of came about after 9/11. It's the first point I remember vividly. I remember stuff from when I was a kid and stuff like bits. It's the first time I remember watching the news ever more than like once a month, or having an idea about what was going on in the world, or even who the fucking president was. You know what I mean? I was like 16. I'm like, I don't fucking know about America. All I know is what I see on TV. And it was like the start of my understanding of like the world. And then obviously I learned a lot about conspiracies, about space, and about fucking climbing and life, and grew up in relationships or whatever. But it's like I felt like that was my first look at what the world could be like. Before that it was all just whatever's in front of me, the town I lived in or whatever. There wasn't much to it. Occasionally we go to Scotland, but there wasn't much of a world other than what was on TV. And that was the first time I'm like, oh shit, this is real. Like stuff happens in the
See,
real
that's weird
world.
because I'm a bit older. It's like my first one was kind of Princess Diana dying, and
I
I was about
remember actually, yeah, I know what you mean. I think I was a bit too young because I remember my dad waking me up in the morning that Princess Diana had died, or she died the night before, and he told me Princess Diana died, and I could see that he was like, Princess Diana's died. It's like it was a traumatic thing, and I'm like, which one's she? You know what I mean? So I must have been like 13 or 14. So yeah, no, I remember that, but yeah, I don't think I was still aware at that point. But yeah, I think like from then until now, it's like the world does seem to have. There seems to be a lot more noticeable like incorrect bits, broken bits, and times where failures happened, whether it's tsunamis or fucking earthquakes or whatever.
mm, I don't know. It's all happening. I've lost my train of thought, to be honest. Just
Is
looking
there
at
anything
something.
else going on in the world that isn't riots at the moment? Like coronavirus, the corona information's lower apparently at the moment. Like this last couple of days was the lowest it's been since the lockdown day or something. Are they still expect it to go back up?
I think that's the narrative. They're going to try. They're going to push it. I think that's how they're going to try and lock down these protests and
Yeah,
riots. I think they're
yeah,
going to
it's
have
going to
a
jump up in a
massive.
week or two. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think this. I'd say this week, during this week, and into, or if not this week, then definitely the start of next week. They're going to start
Hmm.
banging, saying like we're fucking flying up, or all in America and UK and everywhere. There's protesting, basically.
But also, I mean, that could be that it happens because they say it happens, or it happens because it actually happens. I mean, it could be. It could actually, the coronavirus could be still spreading a lot and people getting sick. because we still have no real idea about it, although it does seem more and more to have been overestimated, but we don't know. But yeah, I do think that will be the narrative regardless in the next couple of weeks, if they don't die down.
Well, also, we really haven't planned for whatever the next phase is. It's just like fucking whatever the next big news thing will be. Like we always comes in threes, doesn't it? You know, so like
Yeah.
we've had Corona, now we've had this, and then so what's the next one? Like we said, aliens, something. I don't
And
know.
what's going on everywhere else as well? That's the thing. It's like we see in America, but at some point we're going to start seeing the videos that come out from or what the fuck's going on in China or piles of bodies or something. There's going to be lots of stuff. Again, like we said before, it's like the 2020 will be documented for years, and they'll just be finding out stuff that we haven't seen, that we don't know is going on in 2020. I feel like it's going to be like lots of investigative reporting stories that are like not remotely mentioned at this time.
Have you seen there's like a meme of like it's just like a kid taking a test of all the shit that happened in 2020, and they're just like,
Right.
"Fuck!" Their head's just like, It's like, fucking what?
Yeah. Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah, it will. It'll be
Brazil,
crazy.
Brazil stops publishing key COVID-19 stats as outbreak woe continues in world's
Oh
second
man,
worst
Brazil's going to be
nation.
so bad. That's why I thought about India, but Brazil's got their massive favelas, man. They've got like areas that if the virus spreads significantly through them and affects like the Brazilian people badly, it's like there's going to be millions of people dead. Oh my God. I don't know what the healthcare is like in Brazil, but I'm guessing they don't get NHS type level healthcare. Guessing it's pretty bare.
As good as the fucking schools, I imagine.
Yeah. Fuck, man. The whole world is fucked.
It really is.
The whole world is just literally fucked. Like, I mean, people keep saying about going back to work. I'm like, do you think the world's starting again? Like, at some point, you reckon? Like, there's still a part of me who's just like, I still think it's getting bigger. I would say maybe 10% chance that I will never go back to work again, like in any job. Like no one will. Like everyone is actually currently like we're like I say, we're on that timeline that's going to end up with everybody being unemployed and we're being in a wasteland. And I'd say it's about 10%, which is a significant number. But yeah, I think like
The probability
the
is
last few
definitely,
decisions
yeah, it's
massively jumped up.
definitely rising. I mean, like I said, I've got till the end of this month, and I might just apply for another sick note and just see how long I can let it ride out. I mean, they're paying me, so
Yeah, yeah.
they can't sack me while I'm off, and I've got a legitimate reason because I haven't had any medical thing on my
Mhm.
back while I've been off because of the pandemic. So
Yeah,
they really can't say shit, can they?
yeah.
I'm waiting on an operation.
No, you're right.
What do you want? So it's just like fucking do one. And like I said, yeah, I'm not 100% convinced that the world's going back to normal. I don't think it will. I think there could be a completely different sort of structure to things after this. You never know. I mean, you don't know how long
Possibly.
this goes on for.
And we don't know where it goes either. Like any point, it could get more violent or less violent or aliens, So it's like, or more deadly with the virus. What if the virus really picks up and every single one of them protests and cops all die? What if it's like the snap in England all of a sudden? Because that's the thing. It's like the hospitals that aren't getting overrun must be getting a shitload of broken arms and like that's one thing I thought. It's like we're dealing with a virus that gives you respiratory problems, and they're tear gassing people. And
Yeah,
like fucking hell, man, give your body a fighting chance. But yeah, that's one thing I thought. I was like, that tear gas could not be good for you. If you go to more than one of them protests, you've got a lifelong cough. So
but
yeah,
well, this is the thing though. But like, right, I was thinking, it's like how many people over the world have taken part in these protests? Because you just look at Philly or somewhere like that.
mm,
That's
mhm,
thousands, right?
yeah,
So every day, thousands in one city. You can easily say millions have attended protests all over the world, right?
probably yeah,
So
yeah,
if people if they were to be doing a trial test on a
mhm,
vaccine for this COVID, they certainly wouldn't. The final test phase wouldn't even have millions of people in it. They would have a lot of
no,
people so they could gauge the
mhm,
results, and then if they were good, they'd
yeah,
release
a
it
couple of thousand probably, yeah,
yeah, at best.
yeah,
So isn't this like an ultimate end game trial test for COVID itself? To be like, well, if these people, if all these millions of people, if whatever percentage of the population that already has COVID, let's say it's 10% or whatever,
Yeah,
you know, then if 10% of those millions of people don't get COVID in the next
yeah.
week, then
Yeah.
it's fucking, that's a better test than any vaccine test you could do on the vaccine,
Mhm.
you know. So
Yeah,
you may as
yeah.
well forget about COVID and then forget about the vaccine because it's done.
Well, one of the things I saw today, one of the random videos, it just started off like, so I guess COVID's over because 10,000 people just met up in London, so that's COVID over, right? COVID's finished, lockdown's done. Because it was just like, well, they've all gone out. It's like if them 10,000 people, if there's a handful, or I don't know how badly it spreads, but you'd imagine there doesn't have to be many people in there for it to spread pretty badly. Um, so if they all get it, and then they're meeting up with probably 3 to 6 people each separate to that group, then that's the entirety of London taken care of. And apparently London numbers are down this week. But again, they might be catching the end of the COVID, and it's like in certain places, and they're gonna be bad. And fuck knows.
But like I'm saying, if however 100,000 people could meet up in London, then we could just go back and start going to football matches again and concerts and shit and pubs.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can sit fucking 20 people in a bar, or 50 people in a bar. If you can fit 10,000 in a square, all screaming at each other and crying and getting tear gassed. Yeah.
Here's your contact tracing. Take every single Twitter account that has, because I'm sure nearly every person who attended the protests or whatever have posted something about being there. I'm
Well, to
pretty
be honest,
sure.
if I'd gone, I would have gone full no tech. But yeah, I'm
Yes, I would
guessing
have done also.
90%
I would have not
full no
taken
tech.
the phone with me.
I'd have taken a picture before we went out, full no
Well,
teched it all the way
I'd
whole
have
way through
taken
it.
an old
Had an
phone.
agreed meet-up point.
I'd have taken
An
an
old
old phone
phone would
to
have worked. Yeah.
record the stuff, but that doesn't have any cellular activated on it, like,
Mhm.
or my SIM card in, and I'd just use that to record shit. But yeah, I imagine though the majority of people who did take the phone, and the majority of those people took photos or tagged themselves there.
Mhm.
So
Or had a video or whatever. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
either way, most people there will have had the phone on them. So there's your
Mhm.
contact tracing app. Take the contacts from all those phone IP, all those phone SIM cards addresses, and
Mhm.
everyone they've met up with, and so then you've
Yep.
got a database and
Mhm.
and a trial, almost an
Yeah.
experiment, you could say. Even if the government just run it in the background, don't tell anyone they're doing it.
Mhm.
They just do it and just go right. So these thousands of people, all the people they've met, all the people they know, everyone they've been in contact with, and so that could spread out immediately, and we can find out how quickly COVID would spread through that giant
Yeah.
base
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
people.
So it's interesting that you were saying before about like like the message will be that in a couple of weeks that the numbers have gone down, but now actually they're going back up again. Because the way I watched the thing today, and it's like a 2-minute video. I watched it about 5 minutes before you rang me, and it was whatever his name is, the British politician, not Boris, but whoever is chief of whatever the fuck. I don't know any of their jobs or positions or anything about politics. But he was saying like the numbers have gone down in London hospitals. We've had no corona deaths, or he said like he didn't say or, but he said like no corona deaths with positive corona test results. So it's like, so because it basically it's sort of the way it kind of sounded. It was like
Had no
they had
corona
corona
deaths
deaths, but
from
they didn't
people who
test
were
those
tested.
ones. For people who were tested to have corona, yeah, that it was like that's basically the way he said it. But it was like no corona deaths for people that show positive
So
corona
you've
test
had
results.
corona deaths from people who weren't tested or came up negative from testing, and then they
Something,
died
yeah,
of
that's
corona
basically
after
how
that.
it sounds. I mean, again, he might have just stuttered and stuff. You do tend to see, like, most politicians don't seem to be very good
Well,
at
especially
talking and
most
saying the thing they're trying
British
to say.
politicians, they're a bunch
Yeah,
of
they're all a
fucking
bit bumbly
deluded
and
idiots.
morons. But that again might be part of the ploy. I feel like this whole British image of this Hugh Grant, sorry, kind of image. I feel like it's just a British ploy that we've been playing for years with all these secret agents and shit, where we just become across like bumbling idiots, and really they're just masterminds. Because Boris's change from bumbling idiot to pretty serious politician was sharpish when the coronavirus hit. It went from it went from somebody I wouldn't let like write my name down because he'd probably spell it wrong, to somebody that looked like he'd be all right in a bar fight. So Not that that is either of those things are any requirement to be a politician, but
No, I think that is probably the qualification in Britain for most jobs is, high profile jobs. If you would be all right in a bar fight, you'd do all right in that job.
yeah, you think they do some politics and go down the pub, have a couple of shandies and a pie, and then get in a scrap, and that's politics. That's how I imagine it goes. I don't know. This is why I don't run for politics. I feel like
That should be it,
I don't
right?
like pies.
Every politician, that's how we solve all problems now. It's every politician go, right, you have to go it like we said about the fight politician thing,
Yeah,
the
the fight.
idea.
Yeah,
But this
fight
now,
presidents. Yeah.
yeah, it's like this now. You've got to go into that pub, sit down, have a couple of pints and a meal, and just sorted the problem out. And if you haven't sorted it out by the time you come out the pub, you're shot.
Yeah. Or just you have to if you have to fight to the death. So if you two haven't agreed on something, then it's a fisticuffs to agree on it, and then whoever wins gets to live, and it's their idea, and they get to go with it, and whoever loses dies.
There
End of
should be
story.
threat, though, I think, to all these, even just the current status, like the UN, all these people, like the fucking European Union, all this shit. It's like all these. How long did they talk about Brexit? If everyone just got into that room and it was announced that once they'd entered the room, all the the EU
Or
people.
like a jury where they can reconvene, but they have to just stay there until it's done, day and night, until it's done for a month. Yeah.
Yeah, but the EU, just like they all into the room, and then it's just as soon as the doors are locked, and it's just announced, right? You don't leave this room till it's sorted. And if you do leave the room, you're killed. A lot of you, if you haven't sorted it by the time you leave, you're all shot dead, and we get new politicians. It's that
That's
simple. Because that's the job you're
yeah,
supposed to do.
but then you're also putting the person that kills them authoritarianly above them, and then who's above that person just stop them, just being like, they didn't come up with a decision fast enough, so I shot him. He wanted to go to the bathroom, so he got shot in the face. Then there's always a hierarchy of someone that's got.
Not really, because they're not in charge. They're just the people that shoot them in case if they don't make the decision.
I think, yeah, I guess they're actually like, I really don't want to do this, guys. Make a decision. They're like, I just need to go and feed the kids. Like, nope, shoot you in the face. I think just a lot of stuff needs to be way more transparent. There can't be any more under the table. I mean, there always will be with every government, and I'm sure it's the way it's always been. And some people are going to be harder to deal with because you can have the country with the perfect leader who's like a fucking savior, who's the best speaker and the most interesting, and really, with the times and stuff. And every other country could be full of dickheads, and you're fucked. You know what I mean? Like, they need a certain level of arrogance and you know ability to compromise on any ideas. Otherwise, you can't run fucking 7 billion people. It's like, but that's why I think most, especially in America, they went for Trump as like he's a tough leader who's going to stand up to Putin and fucking Korea and all this sort of shit, because he's a person that's not going to back down because he's so bravado and everything. Obviously, they ended up with Trump. So, but yeah, I think that there is an aspect to that. So even if you had a perfect leader, you're still fucked because you're just going to be taken advantage of. But they need to stop under these table dealings, and you can do this, and then you'll get the contract for that thing, and blah blah blah. Because it's always going to come back as hurting somebody or somebody benefit from stuff. But realistically, I know when I worked for HSBC, and I know they talked about in the early days how a lot of deals were done shadily in banks. They'd send you gift baskets and blah blah blah. And if someone was starting a business in Hong Kong or in whatever country, there'd be under the table deals, and you have to do this, and you might have to knock this much back, and you might have to pay for this thing as well. In building or anything, and there's always them sort of things. America's run by fucking unions. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, you know what I mean. And that went on for hundreds of years. I've heard loads about them. Dana White talks about them in the Boxing Commission, like when he started up UFC and he couldn't get into Vegas, and they wouldn't let him into Madison Square Garden for 15 years into the UFC because the head of New York was trying to unionize everything and try and unionize the fighters because it was part of a scheme, like a strong arm type scheme. But that's the problem. It's like politics isn't just good people making the right decisions. It's knobheads and good people and con men and fucking people that don't fully understand it, and people that are looking for some sort of fame through it. And families that have been born into it and they were born to lead the next thing, and people that owe people favors, a lot of favors. Well, I mean, from the way I see it is like, if me and you have known each other 20 years, right? So if I said I'm moving house, can I borrow your car, or can you give us a lift with it? You do it because that'd be doing me a favor because we're good friends. But if we were both billionaires, you wouldn't need help moving my car, but I might need help getting sit down with a politician, or fucking buying an island or something, or dealing with a mafia boss, or whatever it is, or buying a jet. Like, I've never bought a jet before. Someone that buys jets. Oh yeah, I know this guy. Or actually, I want to start a charity. Okay, well, we'll do it this way, and then you don't pay any tax on it, and knock it off over here. Or I'm starting a business, or you don't have to pay tax if you put it in Sweden. There's lots of that sort of shit. I feel like it's just different levels of favors and agreements, and then I've got, of course, there's blackmail and creepiness, but there's people like that in every level of life. There's people like I know that would throw me under the bus, given half a chance. Everyone knows them sort of dudes. So, but that's politics. I think this is the reason I've never really enjoyed politics, because I've always realized that it's corrupt and crooked, and like the world. Like, I've always just kind of gone about my life, and I don't really get in trouble. I don't steal things. I've been lucky enough to have a good life and stuff. But I like, a lot of politics don't bother me because I don't have a real issue with anything. It's like, as long as, like, the only politics that ever really bothered me up until maybe 2 years ago was like, how much do the trains cost? Like, how much is tax and stuff. It was just things that are gonna but they don't really change much. I wasn't like, oh, what is his policy on LGBT or something like this, because I'm like, well, it doesn't affect me. Hopefully they figure it out. Not that I ever really voted. I think I've only voted like twice. But I think now it's like there's a lot more to think about, unfortunately. Gives you something to watch, though, doesn't it? Gives you something to watch every morning. Send me videos every day, a couple of videos. Oh, what's this? I went on a right rabbit hole after you sent me them. I did that, then I did my yoga, and I came back and started watching them. I was like, oh, where does this go? And what does this thing do? And I wonder if I type this into YouTube, what it'll come up with. And like I said, I went through body language, dude, and then
That's it. It's like, I've been doing a bit of research like that myself as well. It's just kind of good. I've been using Twitter for that though. It's like I'll type in just like London protests or something, and just look at the latest results and just start going down them. And people have just been throwing up videos and photos, whatever, and talking about it. So it's just kind of a good way to kind of, even if the news isn't reporting it, even on Twitter, it's like you can just go and type in something that you want to know about, and you find out. They can't stop it. This is it.
Yeah, no, and it's good. Like I say, I think it's very difficult to find something that isn't the same videos. I'm like, look, these have been going on for 4 days in 5 different countries. There's got to be more than 10 videos. Like, I keep coming across the same ones named by someone else differently or something. I'm like, that's just shared from something else. And I found a lot of it was just like streets on fire. You wouldn't see any context. It was just like LA burns. And like, yeah, but what happened? Why is it burning? And who started the fire? And where did that come from? And it's just these stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of the videos are kind of like war movies. They're kind of in the trenches, single camera action type, explosions in the background. Can't really see what's going on. They're all like Blair Witch videos, but in the middle of a riot. It's like a new way of filmmaking.
Look, have you seen this London one? There's one here, like, where they just basically take a statue down, and they all go up to, like, they're all basically on the bank of like a dock on the Thames, and they just throw this statue.
That's not in London. That's in Bristol.
It's in Bristol, is it?
Yeah, and that's in Bristol. That's the statue of a slave trader in Bristol that stood there. And there was like a what they called, like a thing they sent out for you to sign a couple of, like maybe 6 months ago. Someone sent out a petition to get it taken down because it was racist and blah blah blah, and it didn't get taken down, or it hadn't been. I think the coronavirus thing started, it didn't get taken down, and obviously now they dragged it down. But they also spray painted Churchill's monument with "Churchill was racist," which I'm guessing he was. But it's like, I saw Ricky Gervais say something quite interesting, where he was like, it's like like the negative things that people do don't change the positive things and vice versa. So because Churchill, fought against Hitler and, changed England and saved part of the world and really was the front of that thing, doesn't negate the fact that he was also racist. But the fact that he was a racist doesn't also negate the fact that he was the savior for a lot of, the West. So it's like, there's one thing to have a statue of a slave trader, which just seems insane anyway, but Bristol was a port city and was predominantly slave based. It was a massive slave trading port at one time,
Well,
so
the
it makes
face
sense that in their city.
Churchill statue anyway. So
Yeah, exactly. They fucked it up, it's gone. But yeah, the one with the church, I'm just like, is it worth taking down? Like, he was still, he was still Churchill. He still did a lot of good. But I don't know. It's like that cancel culture. It's like kill your heroes type thing in it again. We were talking about last time.
this is it. It's a complicated subject, really, but
It's a
I guess
complicated world.
there's no discussion being had here. It's just they're just doing it, So I guess that's it. It's done. It's like I've got no issue with it really. I don't really give a shit.
Don't bother me. Again, never going to Bristol, so but no, it didn't bother me much. But I was just like, I get it. I understand why. A lot of people didn't like it. One of the politicians or the mayor or someone of Bristol said that she didn't like it, but she thought it was disgusting. They pulled it down and threw it in the water and shit. But I was like, yeah, fair enough. But I did find it quite weird that it was in Bristol. I'm like, does Bristol have I feel like there's places that are popping up that I wouldn't have, I'd expect somewhere like Manchester and Liverpool to riot, or like Glasgow to riot, like places that are a bit fucking, let's get some type people. But Bristol is always like, hello, I'm from Bristol, how are you? Imagine them kind of getting up in arms and tearing down a statue and stuff. But right on. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Yeah, maybe it's going to be like Warriors. Maybe a couple of years from now, it'll be like we're all just transgressing. It's like Warriors and we're all wearing different costumes and like skating through the streets and stuff. That sounds probably about right. Just about appropriate. Feels like that kind of new movement that's going to happen. That's it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Twitter and all this shit
I
going
could
on.
tell because you went silent.
Yeah.
I could tell you're just looking at shit. So, anything
You-
interesting on there? Anybody? Any
Just
videos?
looking.
Anything?
No, I was just looking at the London stuff that's happened today. Doesn't seem to. There's more. I don't know to trust really anymore either. But pictures of things, police officer with blood coming off his head, and I don't know. Fuck it. I don't care anymore. Just get on with it. A lot of you sort it all out. Yeah.
It's going to keep going, but it is going to get like the same as the coronavirus. It's just going to get the normal. It's going to become the thing, and we're going to be desensitized to some of the violence. Especially once it gets violent, I reckon we'll quickly get desensitized.
Well, this is what I'm saying will happen. It'll just carry on. I mean, look how long the coronavirus has gone on for, and everyone's just kind of bored now, and just this is it, whatever, get on with it. Well, this is the way of the world. It's like if this doesn't get sorted in the next week, then it will just peter out, I think, because the world will just find something else to entertain itself. And I know that's a kind of a harsh way to look at it, but it will, because it's like kind of I think the governments just know they could just sit around and wait for it to just lose its momentum.
Yeah. I don't think it will.
That's the way they've operated. I'm not saying it will either. I'm just saying that's the way governments have operated.
Oh yeah, that does seem to be the thing. It's like we'll fight them if they're can. We'll show. In America, it's different because they've got Trump and he's just like an instigator. But yeah, in a lot of places, it's going to be like eventually it'll eventually get cold. It'll start to rain, and the quality of the experience will be worse, and some people just give up.
Well, this is one thing I was thinking. Well, it does. This sort of stuff proves, I don't know. It just depends what angle people come from. But it's like if it's like people talk about HARP or something like that, and they've got this weather weapon and that. Well, you'd think if they had something like that and they could control the weather, they would just create the biggest storm over America with just pissing rain that people just couldn't protest in. They'd just fucking have to stay indoors, So that's that. You know what I mean? Unless they like.
Yeah, I didn't. I literally haven't thought about HARP in about 5 years.
Neither have I.
First heard about it. Well, until you mentioned it, I'm like, oh, I remember that. I was like, how's this going to come into it?
Yeah, I was just thinking about kind of alternative solutions to it. That if kind of you put yourself in a position. If I was just a leader, or in charge or up in the upper echelons, and it was just like, it doesn't matter what my opinion on anything is. My job was to make sure this got returned to peace. It's like, okay, I go, can we put something in the water that makes people more docile and kind of just a bit more.
See, I don't think that's what they want, though, especially not at the moment,
No, I
right?
don't either.
Like, you've seen
We want the chaos.
Full Metal Jacket, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the start of that, there's the main soldier, I can't remember, is it Joker? That doesn't really want to be in war, doesn't want to kill anybody or anything like that, you know what I mean, like that. But then, having been attacked and been angry and like against the enemy, he'll fight, and he fights like a soldier. And he's like, they indoctrinate him into the idea of a soldier. It's like, that's the enemy, regardless of what it is. It's not about peace and love and blah blah blah. Well, it's like, if the American government lets it continue, then they create a police force that is actually against the enemy, which is the people protesting, and again, obviously, significantly Black lives in general. It's like they kind of reaffirm their position on it with people that would otherwise be like, actually, I think there's a conversation needs to be had here, blah, 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 because they're fighting through war, and at some point, even like if there's, like I was saying the other day about that woman who was in the riot armor and it was way too big for her. It's like, she's probably doesn't want to be there. She probably doesn't want to fight and hurt people and stuff like that. But if she gets her head kicked in by some black guy, the next time she goes out, she's going to want to fight.
If one of her officer
and it's going to change her whole perspective.
gets their head
One of
kicked
her
in.
officers, yeah, exactly.
If one of her family
and they're
members
getting put in this
gets hurt,
situation, exactly.
yeah, all of a sudden it
You know
goes
what I
on
mean?
long
So it's
enough.
like the police are getting even more like, that's what I was thinking. Like at first, like, why aren't the police stopping each other? But it's kind of gone to a point where every single one of them is going to have an experience with one of their friends getting hurt by now, and likewise, every single one of the protests is going to end up with somebody they care about getting hurt by now, I would imagine, or being gassed themselves, or just generally feeling worse than they did to begin with.
The police also have that kind of, what am I trying to say? The team mentality.
Oh yeah, of course. So I just think they've just created these two sides, and they want it to boil over, so that in the future, if they say, right, we're going to martial law and shoot anyone's side, the cops would be like, it's about fucking time, rather than being like, whoa, we didn't sign up for that. You know what I mean? Like, they've already got. It's like we've said many times. It's like, once you step over a certain line, any line in the future, we talked about it when we're talking about Epstein. We talk about it when we talk about, like millionaires and stuff like that. It's like something, once you've achieved something, even if it was something you didn't think you wanted to do or didn't ever want to do, it becomes easier to do it the next time. Like that first time they go out with them truncheons, there were probably, I would say, a significant amount of those cops that thought, I'm not going to use this thing. We're just going to stand there and it's going to be a protest and I can have chats with people and this might be a positive thing. And by the time they came back, they were bloody, or their friends were, you know what I mean? Like, and the truncheons had been used. So it's like the next time they go out, they're like, well, I know this is getting used, you know what I mean? Like, and it just slowly, by degree will change their perspective until like say, when it gets to a point where they're like, right, we'll get guns now. And they're like, well, I don't want to use this gun. You know what I mean? They're already going to be, it's like a brainwashing sort of thing. And like I say, with the protesters, it's the same thing. You go out and peacefully protest and then get your head kicked in. You ain't going to peacefully protest anymore. You're going to go out ready. Or I would.
You're going to be strapped next time you go out.
Yeah. But it's like if you walk to work every single day and it's peaceful and nice, and then one day you get mugged on your way to work, the next day you're going to have something to protect yourself, and you're going to be more prepared for that same thing. And every day you walk, like that walk to work is no longer the same one as it was before. It's got you've got a different perspective of it. It sounds simple, but it's exactly the same thing. It's like something's changed your perspective. If you've never ridden a bike with a helmet on and you fall off one day, you wear a helmet after that, don't you?
You'll never lower your guard on your walk again, will you?
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like when these protesters are going out, they're like, we're going out to peaceful protests, and they know that their friend's been beaten up, or they've been beaten up, or someone's been arrested, or they've already lived a life way before this where someone they know has been murdered by the cops. It's not like they're like going out unprepared. They're like, well, if it kicks off, we just well, hopefully they're not. There's definitely some going out. I saw one that was fucking this lass, all done up, taking like a kind of peace sign photo in front of it, and her boyfriend had this camera, like a blogger taking this thing. I'm just like, as if you're taking like background pictures in this thing. I'm sure lots of people are doing it, but I just think the mentality of that is so fucking there's a lot of children in this. That's the thing. And
what's so weird,
people without their brains fully formed dealing with this situation. Not that I have my brain fully formed, but yeah.
Well, what's so weird is like, you'll see a lot of these videos or pictures, and it'll be like kind of something going on, and police like smashing someone or grabbing someone or someone's throwing something, and then like in the background you'll just see someone just mincing around with the camera, like taking selfies and shit. Like it's
Yeah.
just so
Yo, this
bizarre.
is Doug from the riots, and I just want to tell my fans that I'm out here supporting Black Lives Matter. If you think it matters, come out and join us. You know, that guy, and there's someone just getting fucking stomped on behind him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally.
It's
So
really a bizarre experiment.
it's such a strange world, though. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's so, like, say, there's people out there in full riot gear ready to die for the cause, and there's a guy dressed like Batman. You know, like he's like stood next to him, walking around in the smoke, like this will make awesome background pictures. You know, because that, like, you know, the guy that filmed that was the guy that was filming Batman that day. You know, I was just like, come out with me. I'm just going to walk around, and it'll look like a scene from a Nolan movie, because that's what it looked like. I was like, that is like, you know. Might have even been that suit. Maybe he bought that suit. Probably just like $1 million. It might have even been like George Clooney, just like, I'm going to go dressed as Batman because no one will notice me. Just walking around like, yeah, or Val Kilmer or something. But yeah, it was just.
How do you reckon like his mate came round and he went and he like ran to his thing and opened it and it had the bat suit there and it's like it's strapped up and everything. Yeah, even went down a pole and everything.
Went down a pole, and his mate's dressed as Robin. Is like, you're not going out in that. Just you can be the cameraman. Fucking, just follow me around. Yeah, I think so. Either that, or it was probably some mental dude. It was probably someone like me or you who was just like, I've got a bat suit. Should we go right? Like, we need some riot clothes. I've got my bat suit. And be like, no, like, you know, like proper stuff. No, I'm going as Batman. You know. So yeah, it's.
What if you
Or it was
saw?
on a stag do.
What if you saw some giant fella in like a full Predator outfit and you'd be like,
Like just walking along the rooftops filming it.
yeah, just running and like the Predator, and he was acting like the Predator and everything, and like diving and squatting on the edge of rooftops and things, and you'd be like, oh shit, it's not the real Predator. This is the place where he would come to hunt, you know, to hunt people. Like,
yeah, don't walk down any alleys.
The chaos.
Because that's one thing I find, and this is a bit of a sidetrack, but it came into my mind today when I was thinking about like the Arab Spring and like the Tiananmen Square and all that sort of stuff. But during the Arab Spring protest, there was lots of like, I mean, obviously it's different cultures and stuff like that, but there was lots of like abuse and sexual abuse and stuff like that in there. But there's all this violence, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of like, it seems to be a lot of people beating each other up. Like the lack of weapons, the lack of even knives and stuff. You know what I mean? Like some of the rioters have sticks, but they look like they've just picked them up off the ground and shit. Occasionally they'll have a bat or a crowbar, but it seems like they're just like at-hand things that people are using as weapons. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of separate violence to the robbing and the beating up. It's like everyone's agreed to these like rules of like these things are allowed during the you know the cops are going to kick your head in, you can kick each other's head in, or you know start a cop, because there's been a couple of cops like get cornered and stuff in the Hong Kong riots. There was a couple of cops that they were undercover cops that were hiding in the crowd and they got caught and they got like handcuffed to trolleys in the airport and the shit kicked out of them. It was insane. They were held hostage for like 8 hours or something, these two cops. But yeah, it's like they've agreed on these weird rules that are like say the cops aren't, you'd think in America like cops shoot people every day, they'll be like, let's just go out with guns, what are they going to do? If they start kicking off, we'll start shooting them. Yeah, like that's what I would, you know. But it's like they've gone, okay, we're in riot time, so you're only allowed to use like, you know, like caveman weapons. You can have a big wooden club and a suit. That's what we get, and tasers and stuff. But I watched that fucking video of that woman on a horse riding into that sign. Jesus Christ.
Ruthless, isn't
it looks so brutal. Obviously, the horse got spooked and then she just died. Like, I was like, she dead. And you were like, no, she got, I'm like, no, she did. So, yeah, she must be feeling sorry for herself. But I think that also, one thing that made me think is that reflects the bigger problem of these untrained police officers. She was untrained to be out in a riot on a horse. Like, if she can't control a horse.
She's not fucking like Wonder Woman. It's like, you know, it's like if you're going to go out there, you better be a really good horseman. Like, you know, or whatever. Horsewoman, whatever.
Equestrian. Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's
equestrian, like that's the word. That's the word I was looking for. What was I saying? What was I going to say? Yeah, forget.
About the equestrian riding a horse into a sign, riding herself into a sign. Yeah.
I think I'd finished saying. No, I was just thinking that I was having a piss. I was just watching that. I'd been watching about an hour and a half of that. Honey.
Oh yeah. It's good, isn't it? It's very good.
They are trashed.
They are trashed.
Fucking
like I say, I mean, she definitely takes mushrooms on it because they mentioned it a couple of times, and I'm pretty sure Joe Rogan probably had a nibble.
You know, and he's smashed anyway. Both of them.
They are smashed. Yeah. They get so loud. Like Joe Rogan gets loud when he's pissed. But yeah, it was quite funny.
That's what I mean. I
It's
want to
quite
see because they're just starting to go off the rails, like and like kind of a bit now, like and shout at each other and stuff.
yeah. No, that's what it's like for the rest of it. For like the next 3 hours, it's just Joe Rogan shouting, and like they'll start like, right, we're gonna play a song, and it's like, play this song, and blah blah blah. And they're like, oh, I'm trying to remember it, but then they'll talk for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying I haven't seen a lot of other podcasts that are talking about the riots at the moment. It seems like there's been a bit of a wall for all people talking about this at the moment. I think a lot of people are nervous about talking about it, and understandably so. It's a motorbike on the A road about 5 miles away from me,
Right.
making a lot of noise. Yeah, it's a motorcycle.
Yeah, so I totally lost my train of thought. What the hell I was talking about anyway? Fuck it. Yeah, no, I was talking about them. I'm being pissed up on. So yeah, it is funny. It is funny that I can't wait to
Yeah,
see
it's
what
quite
the
funny.
rest
Some
of it's
good
like.
Yeah, well, like I say, I mean, they don't really talk about anything deep or anything. They just talk about themselves and their friendship and stuff. But yeah, it's quite good. And music, they talk a lot about music. But they're interesting people as well that he seems to be talking to. So it's just interesting people getting pissed. It's like a podcast in itself. It's just
I was watching. Watched a few documentaries.
All right, which ones?
Well, not really documentaries, just kind of some things about stuff, like interesting little
Yeah.
YouTube vids, things like that.
Yeah. What sort of stuff? What things?
Well, I watched one about a star called
Okay.
Methuselah. The
Great
star's
name.
Methuselah, yeah. It's about 180 light years from Earth.
All right, just a little skip down the road then.
Yep, not too far. It is 14.5 billion years old.
Old, right?
Right.
So yeah, a little bit older than the universe. How's that? Well, I thought wait. I thought it was like 13.7 was the age of the universe.
Yep.
So how is this 14.6 or 14.5 billion? How's that happened? How do they carbon date? I don't. That's a deeper conversation. But yeah, go on, keep telling me.
Well, what I learned. I'm gonna take quiet my headset for some reason. Right. So yeah. So in the discovery of this, right, they discovered this a while back, and they've been trying to date and work out how old this star was, and gradually, every time they do a test on it, they are trying to bring its age down to more in line with what the universe.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense. Because like a lot of discoveries, they're like, well, that doesn't make sense with our current understanding of the universe. So, yeah, okay, right.
Originally, when they first did tests of it in like the 1970s or something, they got an age of like 20 billion years old, and they were just like, "That's wrong.
That's impossible." Yeah,
That's fucking wrong."
from what they understand at the time. Yeah.
So gradually, as they've got further to now, they've discovered that they've been gradually bringing its age down, and so like they can't get it any lower than 14.2, I think.
14. All right, okay.
Yeah, well, it's age is 14.5, they reckon, but like some people have argued and said no, it could be 14.
It could be lower. Right, okay.
Yeah. Either way,
it's 0.3 billion years. It's nothing.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't understand all the ins and outs of how they study it, but there's certain things I do kind of. I've learned from the explanation and that, but there's different ways. Obviously, they can determine the age of the universe, and that's the speed in one of which is the speed in which things are moving away from us. And
yeah. Well, that's how they got the kind of age of the universe, because if light's moving at 160,000 miles a second over 13.5 billion years, that's like the edge of our solar system that we can see at the moment. So that must be where the Big Bang happened. Right. Okay. Methuselah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Go on.
And so in the course of this, in the course of trying to get the age of this star down, they discovered something even weirder.
Oh, okay. Of course. Yeah. Go on then. Aliens.
Well, no, the universe could potentially only be 11 billion years old. But this fucking star is still 14 billion years old. And they're just like, we don't get it. And so, even more confusing, they discovered that the speed of expansion of the universe potentially is not uniform. Like, it just happens at random. And so the universe is fucking with us, essentially. and that it's like it speeds up, it slows down, it doesn't follow any rules. There's no rule to it, so there's actually potentially no way of determining how old the universe is. So this has thrown people into a bit of chaos,
It's
right?
thrown my brain into a bit of chaos. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. Go
yeah.
on.
And so what they've discovered also, or what certain scientists have theorized, is that obviously the way they can work out how fast the universe is traveling is the interaction between fields, right? So particle fields. So you'll get certain particles that are like electrons, and they all belong to the electron field. So they all belong to that one field, and then protons belong to the proton field, blah blah blah. And how these two fields interact, basically, the energy created in between these interactions, it determines how fast the universe expands. And so
Okay.
so when they measured this energy, like obviously they know about dark energy, and that's we know what that is, right? The theorized, we don't really know what it is, but they just know that
Yeah,
it
yeah,
must exist. And so
yeah,
when
yeah.
they
Well,
measured
I've got
this,
an up-to-date-ish theory on that as well, but go on.
okay. So when they measured this energy reaction between the fields, they discovered that it was 120 times more powerful than than any energy created by dark energy, essentially. And
Right.
so they were like, this doesn't make sense. And so they've theorized, or this has been a theory that's been around for a while, that there is another particle after dark matter that also has an effect on the universe, but it affects how fast things happen and time, essentially. And they've called this
Right.
particle axion. And yeah,
The force.
yeah, and but they reckon this particle potentially only existed briefly at the beginning of the universe, and only exists every now and again whenever it fancies, and it doesn't actually have any logic to it, and so they can't
Right.
nail
So
it
it just
down.
jumps up in places and creates
Yeah,
havoc and then disappears out of the universe.
yeah,
Like a bit
apparently
of
that's
trash
I imagine.
universe
And the havoc it
data sort of thing.
causes is the universe's expansion actually speeds up or slows down, and so
So it's
with
like a
this,
time gem or a power stone. There's a
yes,
power stone
essentially,
somehow out there just creating gravitational like waves across the
quite
universe.
literally, because they say that they reckon even at the beginning of the universe, because this
Uh-huh.
affects time and the speed of, because obviously time is established by space and the speed of
Yeah,
movement,
yeah, yeah.
and so like because this affects the speed of movement and the speed of the space is expanding, it means that even at the beginning of the universe, at the Big Bang, when this particle existed, it means that time actually, like if you existed for 5 minutes, then time would have either been much quicker or much longer. So it'd still be 5 minutes, but you might have been there for 100,000 years.
Yeah, it could have been a full evolution.
Yeah, and so
Uh,
potentially it could have created a lot more stuff earlier on in the time
mhm.
slowdown period. Things could have
All things could have been extended within the
faster.
same time. So
Yeah, so potentially that
interesting.
could explain potentially why this star is much older than any other star potentially, and it's not the only star in the universe, by the way, that they discovered that is older.
I find it fascinating that it's not that far away compared to the thing, because you'd
Yes,
expect
that's
them
what I
to
thought was
find some
interesting.
sort of information about that at the edge of our solar system where we can't really see it, and it's like it might be there's a couple of billion years in it out there. We're not really sure how things work at that extent, but to say that it's quite well, I say quite close, like 50 a million years away. Um, but damn. So yeah, the thing I heard about dark matter was about, when I was talking about that uh, outer solar system body, that Uhuru or whatever the fuck it's
Yeah,
called,
yeah.
the other day, they were saying that they think that might make up for some of the spots they see in like fields. When they look in, they say there's something missing from that, and they think it might be dark matter, or it might be something that's, like creating a gravitational field. They think it
Mm,
might be these things because they wouldn't be able to be tracked. They can only be, that one was only tracked because it came so close to Earth, and that's why they were saying they think they expect there's probably if they've spotted one with the technology we have now, then there's probably one in our solar system at all times traveling through, because we like it's such a rare thing that it came close enough for us to spot. You know what I mean? It was just like an accident that we spotted it, and so like the chances are if we can spot one by accident, there's probably more than one, basically, you know, within our solar system. But they were saying that it might make up for the fact that we see spots in like the galaxies and stuff, you know, energy decreases or things reacting with things that aren't there, sort of thing, because you can't actually track these things because it's just helium, and it's like, you know, a bodily thing, a celestial body passing through space that we can't track, so it just looks like a blip, sort of like, you know, like an invisible spot. One thing I watched a Neil deGrasse Tyson thing earlier today. He was talking about like the different launches in Mars and stuff, and he was saying one of the new theories for the Fermi paradox is that a civilization, you know, the Fermi paradox, why you haven't seen aliens yet, and I assumed you would. Just for the fans, Fermi paradox is basically why, like the equation of why, with so many planets and so many solar systems, so many stars, and you know, planets in the Goldilocks zone, why we haven't seen alien life, or theorization, or whether we could. But he was saying one of them might be that you create enough technology to occupy your solar system, or occupy your area, whether it's one planet or 5 planets that you can occupy, and you start to, like, what it was like, once you get to Mars, you'll instantly start to move off to Mars. You'll send 2 ships to then the next planet, and they'll send 2 ships to the next planet, and it gets to a point where you're like, you've still reached max capacity on the areas you can technologically get to, and so then you start fighting for the territories that you've already got between you and wipe yourselves out. And I'm like, yep, that sounds I mean, that's what we do on Earth. So, you know,
There'll be a lot more advanced technology and weaponry.
yeah,
So I imagine
and he talked about the idea of like being the first trillionaire. He was saying, like, if you're like, he wasn't even talking about the precious metals. He was saying if you can find water in space, then it costs $10,000 to send he said a pound of water. So probably about a pint of water. It costs about $10,000 because into space. But it was like, if you could mine it for $5,000, then you'll be a trillionaire, because you'll be able to be the person that creates water in space. You know what I mean? Like, and he was talking about how all these companies that mine asteroids would also be the defense system for Earth. So if an asteroid's on a collision course with one of the planets, Earth, Mars, or whatever, one of the moons, then these companies would also be, you know, they'd move out of the way while mining it and keep it themselves.
And Bruce Willis and
yeah, yeah, like yeah, with fucking Aerosmith's daughter, with Liv Taylor, but obviously the government would then pay them these massive contracts to be like the, you know, like the spatial barrier sort of thing. So it was quite interesting what I was talking about, but it just reminded me of that. But yeah, the thing about that thing about the planet, that is just mind-melting. Have you seen also, there was lots of stuff, and I missed it entirely, but there was lots of stuff about these radio signals coming from space. They last for 4 minutes, and they come every 8 minutes. And then they'll not come for, they come for 4 days, and then they don't, there's like, they miss 8 days or 12 days, and then these signals start coming through every 4 days again, that they've been picking up. And it's like radio signals coming from this planet, and it's like it's got like a pulse to it. It's almost like a melody to it, like a rhythm to it. And they don't know if it's like some sort of like, you know, like something's got a rotation around the moon, and the 8 days is when it's on the dark, or, you know, a planet or celestial body or whatever. And so like, it's just like a planet that's, you know, radioactive, or a fucking massive comet that's on fire, or something, you know, something that could be a radiation wave, but it's like a
pulsar,
but they're picking like a pulsar or something, and that has a rotation that cuts it off every 8 days. But the fact that it's kind of this uniform thing that's been coming through since like this year, I think we've started picking it up. But it's, yeah, I know, and loads of people have been talking about it. I've not even seen anything about it. I saw about 4 videos on it today. I was just like, but again, they're all saying exactly the same thing. There wasn't really any information. They were like, it's just weird, isn't it? Look at another way, 2020, right? So I feel like that's going to be a t-shirt, 2020. What happens in 2020 stays in 2020. Because yeah, it is Vegas for the soul. But yeah, it was just another one of the things. That's sort of, like I say, space is keeping me sane at the moment. I love anything that blows my mind in space.
And thinking about it really puts everything that's going on in this little blip into perspective.
Yeah, and it's like you can understand how in times of like where there's wars and stuff going on, philosophers look to the stars. You know what I mean? Like in times of like the French Revolution, the people that were thinkers didn't look to burn it all to the ground. They looked to where we can move forward to be. And I think it's important in a time of like upheaval in the world, and rightfully so upheaval, but upheaval in the world, it's like look towards the positive of where humanity can be. Otherwise, I am looking at I'll probably never have a job again, and I may have to get a riot suit at some point. You know, like if somebody were to attack me today, how would I defend myself? But yeah, I just think, you know, like the world is certainly gonna change. I think it'll spread to England. I think there'll be I think there'll be violence over here in time. More violence.
We're quite a distance away from places that would.
Oh yeah. Literally, I mean, I'm sat here watching the sun disappear behind a chocolate factory building that's been around for 300 years, and literally the rest of the world could not exist. There's not one light on any of the boats. The river's completely still. Nobody walking the dog. I could be the only person left on Earth right now, and I wouldn't even know. It's like pure bliss, simplicity, chilled out life. Meanwhile, a couple 100 miles away, there's probably fires going on, and a couple of 1,000 miles away, there's definitely fires going on. It's crazy. World's a crazy place. But yes, space is interesting. I was going to say, another thing in this, there was a thing saying, where is Tesla's Roadster? You know, the Roadster he sent up in the rocket earlier this year.
Yeah.
And do you know they sent it on a trajectory to Mars, and it'll supposedly, unless it hits an asteroid or something, it'll continue to rotate around the sun for like 280 million years. And we'll see it again in 2029, I think they said. It'll get close enough again to Earth to see it, but it passes by us every 500 days or so past Earth on like the rotation, and then past Mars. So it did a flyby past Mars and a flyby past Neptune, and it comes on a rotation. It should continue in this rotation. So it's in space now. It's like in space all the time, playing fucking Rocket Man with this weird dummy just for. So like like an alien, like an intelligence that came from out of our solar system into our solar system now. Say that like aliens had never existed, or hasn't been here in this timeline, or in this, you know, whatever. If they did turn up now, there's a chance they could bump into a car in space before they see Earth. Be like, what the fuck put this here? Is this natural?
Lunatics send
Yeah,
this.
exactly, yeah. It's like the spacesuit's empty. What the fuck happened? And then they come down and Earth's just like rioting and fucking there's a plague going on, and like it's like if they watch the news for 5 minutes, they'd be like, just leave them to it. They'll blow themselves up in a couple of weeks.
They'd be like, these people managed to put shit together and launch that into space. And why?
The first contact is that gold disc, and then a couple of like in a few satellites, and then they see a car, and then they're like, where? And then they like, see the moon, like, you know, oh, they've got some stuff on the moon, and they fly past the ISS, and then they look at Earth and they go, just turn around, just turn around. Like they had such potential, and then now they're just trying to, like, there's fucking riots going on across the world, and people locked down, and fucking pedophiles in power, and lizard men or something. I don't know, like the fucking ice caps are melting, the hollow earth is going to come out, and dinosaurs and shit. That'll be the next thing. Dinosaurs will come back, or like Michael Jackson's alive, or Tupac's alive. That'll be it. Like if I see a protest video tomorrow and it's Tupac and he's like, I've been alive for 20 years, I've been waiting for this to come, start singing Changes, that wouldn't surprise me. I'd be like, yep, that's about right. That's 2020. Yeah. So
I feel like this is the time for disclosure. This is the time for everything. They should just go,
yeah,
all right. They should just
just
go,
tell
all right,
everyone.
everyone stop. This is everything. And just start saying, this is who killed Kennedy. This is and just launch it all out. That's just what Trump should do. Just before he leaves office, he should just
burn the place to the ground before he walks out. Just be like, okay, but someone's going to take over. Like,
like
I want
Black
Biden to
Widow.
deal with the fact that you all now know that aliens existed, that, you know, the government killed Kennedy. That's why I gave, you know, the fucking box when I came to the White House, and that's why I did all this stuff. And pedophile rings run the USA. See you later, I'm out. Mic drop. And just disappear off into obscurity, and then the world just has to deal with it. And Biden's like, I think they're going to put someone in instead of Biden. I think they're going to have like it's going to be whoever he's runs with is going to be scary, because that's the person that's going to likely be in charge. And if not, I think Trump will be assassinated. I honestly do. Like, if he gets in again, I think he'll be the last president to ever get assassinated, or at least an attempt. There's got to be something. I mean, fucking, what's his name when he was president? Who's the prime minister, the fat useless one? Scottish fella. Oh, what was his name? Gordon Brown. Hello, yeah, you're there. Yeah, when Gordon Brown got fucking egged in in the middle of the street, like, you're not going to see that with the president. Like, but that's what he needs. He needs an egging. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets back in, whether there's an assassination attempt. And if Biden gets in, then there'll be some other person underneath Biden who is probably going to be the person in charge.
Yeah, I'd just like Trump to just, before he leaves the Oval Office in his last day, just go on the computer and just dump all the files like Black Widow did on the Shield, like onto the
Yeah.
internet, and just so that's it. It's like it's all out in the open, everything.
Well, Hillary's been arrested now, isn't it? So we might get a Netflix documentary about Hillary being the devil soon, which would be nice.
She's been arrested.
Yeah, she was. She was in court trying to fight the indictment, and it got overturned, or whatever. So I don't think she's been arrested, but she has to give evidence on the case of the missing fucking hard drive thing. Which feels like it might be a setup to, oh, you thought you deleted it, here it is, da da da. It was in a football from Russia. It could be something like that. But yeah, so apparently that's going on as well. I saw something about that the other day. Within this, I mean, like I say, my brain is on overload from just random information now. It's on just thing, and it's like a lot of it's stories as well. So it's not even just like an event that you're watching. It's like the way the media is done, and the way people video things, the way people archive this point in history is very kind of friendly to learning. I mean, it's like some of the stuff I'm watching now, I wouldn't have been able to watch about World War II, in as much detail. Like, I probably know more about what's going on in America now than I do about fucking, I don't know, Napoleon, just because it's accessible information, stories and tales and perspectives. Not that I necessarily have the right answer, but the amount of information you can get from it is vast.
The thing is, though, with all this, like Hillary doing that, and then what was it? The Senate, wasn't it? The Senate votes to subpoena over 30 Obama officials or something in the
Yes,
Obama
that was the one.
case.
Yeah.
That was the other one.
That's the one. Yeah, that's what I saw.
It was this Rod Rodenstein testifies in front of the Senate regarding Russia, something. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, but I thought it was something to do with I didn't know it was called Obamagate. That's lame. But yeah, I don't know what Obamagate is, but I thought it was about like the hard drives and the war crimes and all that sort of stuff. I don't know.
I don't care. It's like this is it. I just ignore a lot of this stuff until I hear about it in a conspiracy video or something one time, and then I go,
The thing is, it's like there's so many stories now, but like some of them you can't get resolution to. It's like there's so many, it's like everything's like one series at the moment. Like the coronavirus was like 2 seasons, but like Epstein was like 1 season. I'm like, where's the finale? Like, where's the oh, and these people always also go to jail. Like watching that breakdown of Prince Andrew's interview today with the guy talking about body language and stuff, and just some of the stuff he says in it. Because I've never actually seen the whole interview. I'd only seen the bits on that documentary. Right. So I watched the whole interview with this guy breaking it down about watch when he does this, and by the end of it, you can see the stuff before he explains what it is. You're like, yeah, he's doing that again, and he's fucking, and like the bits when he talks about things that he's obviously being honest about, or the things that he's got a made up story with, so he's a bit more on the ball with it, and he's kind of smirks afterwards because he's like, yeah, nailed that one.
Nailed it.
But to think that it's like she was saying about Epstein, she was like, he said right at the end of the interview, he was like, he wasn't, what did he say? He wasn't a very upstanding person. She was like, the interview was like, upstanding, what do you mean by that? He's a child sex offender. And he was like, well, I'm just being polite. You know what I mean? And then the guy was like, why would he be polite about a guy who was a friend of his who touched kids, if he was like disgusted by this act, and like when she was saying like, "Do you have anything to say to the woman accusing you?" and he was like, "No, I've got nothing to say. You know, she's got a right to her opinion and blah blah." She's like, if someone was accusing you, you'd be like, "Fuck this bitch, she ain't telling the truth." You know, he didn't say it like that, but you know, it's just all the bits he was breaking down with it was just like, yeah. It's but yeah, it's like I say, it's part of the story, but it's like that's the cliffhanger now, and then like a month from now we'll get the next episode where it's like, oh, he's in trial now. It's like the start of the new season, but that's what life's like. There's like, you know, there's a riot documentary going on. There's a coronavirus horror movie going on. There's, you know, aliens.
Feels like the news has been like that for a long time. Though you'll see the first series of a story, and then like you just don't hear any more about it because something else takes over, and
Oh
then
yeah.
you'll Google it or find out some more info a bit later on. You think, oh, that person didn't go to jail. Something else happened, but you didn't hear about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Until they're dead, like especially with celebrities and stuff, because they'll be like, "I'm going to sue him." Like Epstein's case wouldn't be televised on Netflix by now if he hadn't died. Because he hadn't died, because he's died, they can be like, "This is the evidence," and it's not like slander because you can't slander the dead or whatever it is. You can't, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like it's one of them things where it's just like, yeah, like the world is insane. I've never thought so much of a life when you wake up in the morning going, "Oh my god, what's going on today?" Especially considering it's a bit like Groundhog Day. It's like Groundhog Day, but there's this craziness going on elsewhere. This crazy like story going on elsewhere. That you're kind of completely separated against. You wake up and it's like I woke up today and I couldn't remember if the things I'd done yesterday were the day before or the day before that or yesterday. I was like, what day are we on? I was like, if we're on Monday, is it Monday today? I'm like, yeah, it's Monday, because I was going to help the lady that lives on the boat near me. She wanted to move a staircase and that she got delivered, so I said I'd help, and I'm like, did I say I was helping today? Is today Monday? I'm like, what was I doing yesterday? I was like, was I playing online with Gil yesterday? Or was that Saturday? And it was just like I just couldn't get my head around what day it was at all, or like what I'd been doing, or whether like even with my workout, I was like, am I on day 2 or day 3 of my workout today?
I bought some shopping in that, like, and I had like a roast chicken thing that I was going to cook in the oven, and like I didn't plan to cook it today, but I literally was like, oh, it's on till the 8th, and it felt like I got it just literally yesterday, and like it was already up. The date was up on it, and I had to cook it tonight. Like I was just like, what the fuck? It felt like I just got it.
Yeah, no, it's super weird.
Out of date already. So yeah, I feel like at any point during all this, someone could just take a day out, and you wouldn't realize.
Yeah, totally. And it does feel like one of them things, like when you're sat, you know, isolated by yourself alone and stuff, it does very much feel like we could be in the dark city kind of world where, you know, like, is this always been like this? Is this real? Like, have I just had 3, especially in the world we live at the moment, which is so insane, where you do, like, I've definitely had moments where I'm like, is this actually real? Like the world we're living in, like, does this, like, are we in a lockdown? Like when you wake up in the morning, especially when you're lying in bed at night, like, we live in a world that's on lockdown, that's had riots everywhere, and we're just going to space, and there's signals coming from. I'm like, is this real? Like, it's very much made me question the simulation. Yeah, like I kind of remember what was going on. Like, yeah, it's strange. You can see how people go crazy in isolation in prison, because I've got stimulus here. Like, if I didn't have anything now and I was here for 3 months, I'd have gone batshit crazy. Just walking around a little cell and, yeah, eating 3 times a day. And then, you know, you'd be like, what day is it? What year is it? How long have I been here? Because, yeah, the time before the lockdown does seem like a different world. It seems like a memory from my youth.
Yeah.
Remember that time when you could go out and have food and drink in a pub?
But it has, I mean, realistically, when you think about it, I mean, it's been 3 months, say, hasn't it? You could easily say it's virtually 3 months now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it'd be nearly 3 months. It's been 2.5 months. But like, that's like a percentage of a year. You know, that's like a big percentage of a year. 25%, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's it's quarter of a year. Yeah, quarter.
You've only lived however many years. So that's like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like a 5% of your life or 4% of your life or some shit spent just sitting in your room. It's just
yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. If you look at it that way, yeah, it is.
Probably not that high. I don't know.
It's probably about 1 or 2%. Yeah, like about 1.2%.
But it's
but yeah, it is. It's a significant part.
If you went to prison for this length of time, it would be a massive thing in your life. You would
Yeah,
never,
yeah.
it would
Mhm.
feel like much longer.
Well, I was in California this long, and then I was in Cambodia this long, and both of them felt like life-changing amount of times. You know what I mean? Like it was just something that I'll always remember, and it felt significant and long, and
Yeah.
you know. Um, but yeah, no, it's a significant amount of time, 3 months, and I mean it's half of the year so far. Like 2020, as like I don't really remember the first 3 months, but the first 3 months are always a bit of catch up anyway. Like you're always like, right, this year's going to start this way, and I'm going to do this. I know I was climbing a shitload, and I felt healthy anyway at the start of the lockdown, but it was like it's always like that getting up and going. It was just getting to like the end of February. I was like, well, this year I feel like I haven't really got going yet, and
Yeah,
then
that's exactly it.
and there was very much a feeling of like I just feel like I could do something different for like I needed a bit of I need a bit of something. I was even saying to people, I just like I don't feel this year, man. Like I don't feel like it's going to be a good year. I don't think we're going to get good. Like we'll probably be busy, but I think everyone seems a bit arsey. It just like normally because I work on the boats, it's like the start of the year is nice and easy, and it gets into the heavy season stuff. But the start of the year is kind of fun, and it's like we're going to smash it this year, and this person's going to learn to drive boats, and I'm going to get that boat, and like and you get excited about doing charters because I do charters on an evening, watch the sunsets. I do like 3 hours just chilling and driving up down the river and enjoying myself. So I was like, but this year I didn't feel it, and then the lockdown happened, and now we're 3 months later. The lockdown figures are about where they were at the start of the lockdown, and now we're looking to end it, which kind of seems counterproductive. But I don't think the lockdown's as bad. I don't think the virus is as bad as people thought it was, but I don't know. And now we're going into these crazy race riots.
I just don't think they're going to end the lockdown anytime soon with all these protests going on.
I think. Well, see, the thing is, it's about that equation between the economical like value of it and the things. It's like if they don't open up, the economy is going to suffer more, and people are going to die. If they do open it up, then the protests are going to finish. So which are worse? You know what I mean? Like if they open up and protests go on, then it's the protesters' fault that the economy fails. But if they don't open up, then it's the government's fault.
You reckon they do that? They'd open it up and just to say like, right, everyone get back to work. Fuck your protests.
Yeah. Oh, you've proved like by not following quarantine, it's actually not as bad as we thought it was. So you can all go back to work now.
Yeah.
And if people don't go back to work, you're like, all right, fine. But then a year from now, it's like it was blamed on the protest. It was nothing to do with the structure of the coronavirus lockdown and the blah, 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 blah.
What if this turns into like, what if they do that? They lift lockdown, so I go back to work, and then all millions of people all over the world just went, nope. We're just not doing that. We're just going to sit around and do nothing and protest. And you have to support us because we'll all apply for benefits and you've got to support us.
Mm.
And it's like, this is how we're just going to stop your economy. This is how we'll
Imagine
change.
if enough people had the stoicism to do that. Just be like, okay, everyone's just sitting.
Yeah,
Like,
we've just done a lockdown. They ordered us to do a lockdown. We already know how
we
to
know
do
we
it.
can do it. Yeah,
So
yeah.
just do it. Just carry it on as a protest. Imagine that. We just say, no, we'll just carry on the protest. But it will just carry on the lockdown. Once you say go back to work, we'll just carry on a lockdown. And
Not even a lockdown, just like it'd be a
Yeah, not a
lockdown, but
lockdown.
people don't have to stay at home. So everyone just has a
Yeah.
summer holiday. Everyone just takes them off and does whatever they want.
Nobody goes back to work. Like, I mean, if you've got a job you like, go
There'll
back to work, sound,
But also, yeah, people will go back to because, like, say if everyone was off work, then people would like go to the beach, and the person that sells ice cream will be like, "Well, I'm opening," and everyone else will be like, "I can pay you double because we're gonna have sell a shitload of ice
There's
cream."
people who need to.
There's always going to be those gutty patsies going walking through the picket lines, isn't there? You know what I mean? Like that, because that's what protests originally started on. I mean, not originally started on, but in the UK, it's been historically like, like the miners' protests or the
protesting
whatever it's
a business,
and they're protesting a business. Yeah, exactly. They're protesting the individual thing.
striking.
It's when it's against the government. It's like the government. I don't think they've ever yielded.
But this is what I mean. Could this be a social strike? Like say, right, well, we've just done it on a lockdown, so we'll just anyone who wants to just do a social strike. And
Shall
just
we start the movement? Shall we
call it that and just say
start
like
the lockdown to Black Lives
if you
Matter?
don't want to go back to work once the lockdown lifts as a protest for Black Lives Matter, just don't go back. Just not just Black Lives Matter, but just generally like, look, society is fucked. You're running things wrong. You're all liars. You're all dickheads. It's like we need things to be changed, and if you're not going to do it, then we'll just sit here and force your economy to fix it. To fix it, force the banks to fix it because if the economy doesn't run, they will fix it.
I do think part of the anger for a lot of these people is the fact that, like, for years, both black and white people and whoever have been living on welfare and struggling to get by, and the government's always like, we don't have the money to support these people that aren't doing stuff, and then they're like, here's $3 trillion to the banks and like big businesses and millionaires that run our economy for this lockdown. It's like,
That's what
come
I mean.
on, like, where did that come from? That
Banks,
turned up.
that's what I mean. The
It's
banks
like,
pulled
oh,
that
did I have
level
this
out
trillion
because
in my pocket? I didn't even notice. I just forgot about that 3 trillion. But yeah, it's just one of them things where you're just like, fuck off. I wonder what's going to happen. I don't know. I just, more than ever in my life, I'm unaware of what the future holds. So yeah, I don't know where we'll go from here. Humanity. Aliens. We need aliens. I'd love them just to say, I'd love Trump to go, look, like, if you all go back home, I'll tell you all about aliens. I'll read you a bedtime story about the entire alien program from like pre-Roswell and Area 51, like the original Foo Fighters in World War II. I'll tell you all the way from then to now, everything we know about it. If you all go home, that's the agreement. If you go home and stop protesting, I'll tell you about aliens. I'd be like, I'm off. Quick, get in bed. Read me a bedtime story. Yeah. Just releases all information that the government has ever accumulated on UFOs, and like the ones that go underwater and shit as well, because there's ones that come out of the sea and stuff in there that they've seen. There was something recently that was reported, and I can't. I've said, like I say, I've watched a lot, so it's just coming to my mind. But there was two. Apparently, I've seen it twice. But there was two, let's say, asteroids that were on a collision course, and when they got to each other, it looked like one of them docked with the other one and then pulled it away. But it's been observed twice. Like an astronaut on the ISS mentioned it, and he said at first he thought it might be a satellite that was collecting something from this asteroid, like this whatever in space. But apparently it's been seen through like a telescope or something like that as well. But there was two reported cases of basically like, but they both looked like metallic objects. Both the things were like metallic.
where is it?
Whereas what? In space. Oh, I don't know if it was. I can't remember if it was a video or someone talking about it. I saw it. Like I say,
Where did they see it? Like, I mean, like, was it like by the moon or something? Because I assume you're saying it's like people have seen it with a telescope. So
yeah, it was
in orbit.
like I say. I think one of the people was on the ISS that saw it, that discussed it, and the video footage was from the ISS or something like that, and the other one was someone saw it through a telescope. I think. Like I say, I've read a lot now, so I've got a bit of this information in my head from this morning, and I'm like, what did I see this morning about those two dot things?
So this thing's technically in visual range of the ISS.
So, yes, yeah, I believe so. Like I say, I mean, I'm sure if I look it up, I'll find whatever it was. It was just when I was down some rabbit hole. It was one little. It was only like a 2-minute video as well, so it was just like a little. There's this thing, and I was like, yeah. It was one of them things where I was like, I'll go back to that in a bit, and then didn't get back to it. Like you spend 10 minutes, and I'm like, what was that thing I was going to look at? And then you're watching a fucking podcast or watching a UFC fight or something, and then you're like, oh, what was I going to do? So yeah. I think that's the answer. I think just let's focus on space and aliens and understanding and science and shit.
I think we need to. It's the only thing that's going to get us off this world.
I think so.
And we've proved.
I think so. It's like
we've proved for thousands of years we can't live together.
yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
All this melting pot shit and just mixing everything together. I'm not saying like we shouldn't be, but I'm just saying we're not supposed to. We don't just belong together, all of us. Everyone just like, yeah, it's a big loving. No, people hate each other. People are angry. People are knobheads.
Yeah.
There's no racism involved, and I don't want to hang out with loads of people.
Yeah.
I don't like people that much, so I just don't think it's a big loving is going to happen.
Again, I think it's small tribes. Small tribes. That's what I think people need to do. I was watching this podcast the other day, and podcast was actually about the riots, but this guy was saying that there was a movement. I can't remember what it was, but it was like Texas sort of area. But the governor or like the government had said to all these like hippies that were like, you should have sustainable farming and stuff. And they said, right, we'll give you this land. It was enough for like 20 people. 20 people went down there. And they said, you build your own house, you can have your own land, you can live off grid here, we're going to give you this land to do it. And he said the community lasted 6 days because they were like, you have to get up in the morning and like fucking work 12 hours a day before you sleep in your tent, and you have to build a house and shit. And they just gave up on it. And it was like, that's people for you though. It's like, but yeah, so I think, small communities of 200 and less.
Well, I was watching a thing about like ancient humans, obviously, and bloody
Ancient
and-
aliens, giant stone fingers.
no, and like giant stone fingers. Yeah.
Giant stone fingers. Nazi
Aliens.
death cults.
Yeah, Nazi death cult.
That's what I remember. Giant stone fingers and Nazi death cults. Right.
Some of the exciting things on Ancient Aliens.
Ancient aliens. Yeah.
But this was saying that like when we were hunting mostly and gathering as we did before agriculture, they reckoned there was no conflict at all. They've
Mhm.
never found any evidence of like or any weapon marks on a bone or anything they've found of a human remains. So they reckon like mostly if they ever encountered other tribes, they would just
Mhm.
peacefully exchange stories, do whatever they needed, and then they because they were nomads, because they were transitory, they would move around all the time. They
Mhm.
would just then go their separate ways, and they'd be following the herds or whatever they hunted.
Yeah.
And so they never really had any conflict or war or fights with any other tribes. It wasn't
Mhm.
until they started settling and growing stuff with agriculture, growing on the land, that they started to have conflict because land became an issue then.
Mhm. Yeah, it's territory, isn't it? So
Yeah,
yeah.
territory. As soon as territory began, that's when they started finding violent, evidence of violence, people dying through spear
Fighting over
injuries
what's theirs
and
or
shit,
what they
yeah,
perceive to be
and
theirs.
arrows and stuff.
Shit.
That's
Interesting.
what I mean. So at that time, and also they already had the weaponry because they'd been hunting with them for like
Mhm.
100,000 years, spears and bows and arrows and stuff.
Yeah.
And so they just turned those on people who attacked them, and it's like they were immediately war began. That's the conflict, the idea of war.
Yeah. I suppose also like in a time when there's nomadic tribes and there's a lot of, well, I say a lot, but probably a very small amount in a massive area actually, because there's going to be a lot less population. But if they come across another tribe, it might be the only tribe they see in a generation, or it might be the same tribe they see every day. But they probably actually mingle with them and create some sort of community, and that's how they grow. And then because the one thing when I was watching something about I was reading actually that Sapiens, they talk about the evolution of agriculture, and they talk about how they started to settle down. As they settled down, they got bigger communities, which meant that they were then unable to go back to a nomadic lifestyle
that's
because
exactly
they
where it is.
couldn't maintain the lifestyle of a nomad tribe with such a community, because they'd have to eat more. They'd have to eat more as they moved around. They'd have to have more supplies. But the problem with settling is that actually the diets got worse because they had sustainable crops like grain and stuff like that, but they weren't eating the nuts and the berries and the honey when they could get it. And like they would eat the same type of meat. They'd have chickens that they grew, but they wouldn't necessarily eat like whatever it was. They didn't have the same diversity of diet that they would have had as a nomadic tribe. And so that's how people started to get sort of fat and stuff. And then they have more babies, and then that's how sort of agriculture actually destroyed their way of life and actually potentially made it worse for humanity, because they don't get the natural things they need. And that's why we see people now who live in 50,000 person cities, million person cities, that they don't get the nutrients they need. So they have to take supplements every day because they don't get any diversity of diet, not just because they can't go out and forage it, but because you can't get everything you need from fast food and modern blah blah blah. Interesting. Very
Yeah, so
interesting.
it's like as soon as society settled, it was just screwed straight away.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like, like if they knew that actually like they're settling and everything becomes a bit easier and they don't have to travel every day and they don't have to raise their kids on the move and stuff, and they thought, actually we've got the good life. But if they'd known then that actually it ruins their whole like, if they could jump 2,000 years in the future, I'm sure they'd still be like, that was amazing, let's do that. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like the actual psychological, like, because the thing is, we're no different from them humans. Like, we still have the same wants and desires and needs, and like that thing. And those people that settle down don't get to see the sunset over a different horizon, and they don't get to struggle every day of this like endless grind for like the future and stuff. And now like I say, we sit in offices and wherever and still strive for those things, because we're still the same. Even like we haven't evolved any since then. It's not like we've improved. We're still the same monkeys, still the same chimps.
Yeah, and that's it. So we all just get angry. think that's what a lot of this is about. Just people are annoyed, pissed off,
Yeah,
and
very
just wanting
pissed
to
off.
scream.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. People are just pent up and crazy, and they've been in quarantine for 3 months, and yeah,
This is it. I mean, got nothing to do except get annoyed. And I think that a lot of this is just that. I mean, not just that. Obviously, it's about racism and stuff.
well,
But
that's the thing. But yeah, it's like, I mean, put it from our perspective, it's like I don't have a dog in any of the fights. You know, I'm not like we need to open the economy and get ourselves back to work. I'm like, I agree with that, but at the same time, it's like I'm getting paid not to be. So it's kind of like they've kind of taken away the fight there. And with the Black Lives Matter, it's like, although I agree again with the sentiment, it's not something that affects me, but that's not the point as much as it's like it's not happening here. Short of me traveling down to London, I'm not, you know, there's no, I'm not getting a Black Lives Matter movement sort of thing. And at the same time, it's like I'm still like not sure where this quarantine's going and whatever it is and how this is going to play out. And it's kind of like you're an observer to it, and all we get to do is see opinions every day, and you're like, oh, that person's angry, so I should be angry, shouldn't I? Like I say, you might come out of this and people are just like, oh no, I don't agree with that at all. Like imagine if like we got this kind of open like perspective and actually like, you know, these people are discriminated. Imagine if you just come out into the world and everyone was just the opposite. You're like, shit, just like because we're in our own, everyone's in their own little bubble, and you literally can't discuss it other than, you know, you can discuss it. But you can't discuss it face to face and have a conversation with them and like catch up with a friend you haven't heard for 30 years and go, man, I've never knew this struggle. You explain it to me. Like people can't go out and discuss it in streets and have debates in bars and actually learn and,
oh
you know,
no,
progress. So, well, some people are, me and you are, but I know a lot of people will be sat online saying the N word, you know, playing COD. Yeah, you know,
a lot of
like
people at these protests. It's like kind of well, let's meet up at the protest. Brilliant, do it.
yeah, well, that's the thing, yeah. And like I say, there's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no protests in York. I haven't seen anything about a York protest, but then it's mainly white people and Chinese, and the, you know,
This is it when they're going like, I know it's harsh, but it's like white silence is violence and all this sort of stuff.
mm-hmm.
And if you don't do anything, and I do get it, but that's the way of the world. I mean, I'm sorry, but people just don't. You only fight your corner. Going out fighting everyone else's fucking corner for them as well.
Yeah, it's sort of like fan signs at a wrestling match. It's like the people that are out there, some people are fighting for one thing, and some people are fighting for the other. They've all got signs, and they're all, you know, they're all fans of the like of WWE, but they're not all fans of the same wrestler. You know what I mean? So like they're all fighting for the cause, but their like, you know, view of the cause is all a different. Like every single person there is going to have a different perspective. They're going to have their own take on what it is and why they're there. Every single one of them's, you know, that's the thing with the individuality. And I think that's the thing that is difficult with the world. It's like it's the first time I've seen actual. It's still herd mentality and it's still got that same sort of aspect to it, but it's been done in so many different ways at the moment. It's like they're not like there's like new and inventive ways to riot and protest and all this stuff. Like I say, there's one guy dressed as Batman going out, and there's another guy taking weapons off people like he's a fucking John Wick, and then there's people going out to like with tooled up and, you know, ready to blow stuff up, and there's someone else taking glamour shots for the Instagram. You know, it's like there's so many different stories in this. There's so many different takes on the same thing. It's like every war film put, you know, Saving Private Ryan and Apocalypse Now, and some of them are like Tropic Thunder. You know, it's like there's still war films. You know, there's still protests, but it's just like their sort of take on the thing. So yeah, the world's just fucking loopy. But I feel like it's the new like streaming is protest streaming. You know, like it's the new TikTok, you know, or whatever the Vogue thing is. The new Twitter is like putting up a video. Like it's the thing to watch. It's like there's nothing good on Netflix at the moment, so there's protests to watch.
I do kind of find it kind of funny though that like all I knew of TikTok before this was just people doing stupid videos where they would have like a big list of videos next to
Yeah,
them and be reacting, and
yeah,
it'd just be like
yeah.
kids messing around. And then I've just seen videos this week of people just running through the streets screaming and getting you know,
Yeah.
on TikTok, and it's just okay, that platform took a turn.
Yeah, that's quite funny. I did see when I went on Twitter today, it had like trending and it had the top 10. And bear in mind, this was first thing this morning, and the top 10 was like Earth Day or something like that at number 1, and then something else that I didn't know at number 2. And Black Lives Matter wasn't on it at all. I'm like, well, that's bad. That's not true.
Well,
Like, surely
yeah.
Black Lives Matter should be at the top of the trending list right now, or fucking 2020 protests or something along those lines. That like the act
Are
or
you
whatever
with?
it is.
Well, this
But
is
yeah,
it.
it was just random stuff. I'm like, that's not fucking right.
I mean, I'm all right. Mine are UK trends,
Yeah.
right? But you'd still think it would be up there somewhere. You got like, what's this? Fertilize the future. Something
That was the
about
one at the top. Yeah, yeah,
pooing. When life
yeah.
gives you poop, grow flowers or something.
Yeah, yeah, that was the one that was at the top of mine this morning. Then there's like
Something
Earth
notable
Day or
about
something underneath that, maybe number 2 or 3. There was Earth Day.
like sitting in limbo. Something about someone who was Anthony Bryan. Something about Yorkshire tea. Broadchurch is number 3.
I just don't believe that. I don't believe that's the number 3 in UK that they're talking about.
Broadchurch,
Fucking Poop Day, Broadchurch, and someone I've not heard of.
Yorkshire tea.
But yeah, so
Who the
Yorkshire
fuck
tea.
is
There's no
talking
fucking chance.
Yorkshire? 4,419 tweets about Yorkshire tea. Are you fucking joking?
People do love Yorkshire tea. I mean, I know people that only drink Yorkshire tea. If it's not Yorkshire, it's not tea. But at the same time,
Oh, I see why.
maybe 10 people ever. Why have they exploded? Did they come out and say blacks used to? Did they come out and say something disgusting?
Apparently, it's I don't
Racist.
know. There's some kind of like beef between PG Tips and Yorkshire tea.
Right. That's important. You can see they're really getting to the heart of the issue. It's like, fuck you, Yorkshire tea. It's like, yeah, come at me, PG. PG bitch.
I don't know. I don't care.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's not a thing though, right? That's not real life. People aren't actually texting that.
What it is that people like these companies are diving on it, like going Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, go fuck yourselves. You're the ones that, you're a company, you're a corporation.
Yeah.
I guess it's like it's one upping each other, and one of them didn't say enough or something like that. I don't know. It's something along those lines.
Oh, so they're like, we've just said the Black Lives Matter, but we noticed the PG Tips haven't said Black Lives Matter.
Something like that.
along
Yeah.
those sort of lines. Yeah, that's just ridiculous posturing and completely unnecessary in this time. Like after a fight, when someone's like, "I would have jumped in and saved you," but that's what that is.
Mm.
It's that shit.
Like you said.
Oh, Boris Johnson had something an hour ago, and it says Boris Johnson's statement on Black Lives Matter. I will not, and then it doesn't say what it says. Like you always have to click on the thing for it to be like, I will not stop until the Black Lives are saved.
I will not stop being racist.
He needs to shave his fucking head, does Boris Johnson. He just looks like a mop. He looks like a hobo in a suit. It looks like just giving a crazy hobo a suit. And yeah, him and fucking. I think Joe Rogan had said something like that about Trump. Who was like, he needs to shave his head and he'd be like the ultimate bad guy. I'm like, he would look like a bad. Like if he shaved his head he would look like a evil dude from a sci-fi movie. And with his actions, he's kind of, if it's, or maybe that's it, his big finish will be like, it was deployed to burn America to the ground, because he'll be rich. Like I'm sure, like no one. It's weird that no one's burned down a Trump Tower yet. It's one thing I thought. I was like, why don't they go to Trump Tower? Like he owns that shit. He's hid away in the White House and they're protesting the White House. Go burn a Trump Tower. Go start like getting in this shit. Then you'll see.
How much Trump property is there in New York? Why isn't someone burned it down? This is what I mean. Why hasn't they been attacked? Why are they smashing people's businesses? Why don't you go and attack like the rich people's houses and all the fucking banker houses? Go and Google who's in charge of the banks that you hate, and then go and fucking attack their homes.
Well, like I say, that it's just because there's no structure. It's like I mean, I know. I'd make a much better activist than some of these activists. I just feel like you're approaching it all wrong, guys.
Just sit around and make suggestions.
Don't go where there's like, if you're going to start looting, don't go where there's 100,000 people and just as many cops. Go where the cops aren't. Like they can't just be like. There's definitely going to be loads of shops in the middle of like nowhere that are just like just go in and rob the place because all the cops are busy. I was thinking that the other day. I'm like, if they've called in all these cops, like if there's an actual emergency or if there's like an earthquake or something, go rob a bank. Yeah, but again, don't do this.
Don't do it.
Don't do this at home, kids. Just suggesting.
Is United States trending on this? Number 1 is something people's budget LA, so that is something to do with it. That's like I imagine that's defund the police, and all that. So it's something to do about that. Then something to do with Trump recession is number 2.
Right.
Number 3 is solar. Something says solar. I don't know. It's
Okay.
just SOHLA. Don't know what that is. So National Best Friends Day. Okay, that's number 4.
Fucking piss off. That's what I mean. It's like, that's
Get
bullshit.
fucked.
It's
Mate,
absolute
Black
bullshit.
Lives Matter isn't on it at all.
And neither's COVID, and neither's, like, fucking SpaceX or whatever.
Fucking Amy Winehouse is on here.
I mean,
She's
that's
number
too soon,
23.
Dan. Too soon.
She's number 23.
Is this like of all time? Maybe no, because surely
No,
it'd be
this
like
is today.
fucking 9/11 or something. That's ridiculous.
That's what I mean. It's
People are
like,
like, if Amy Winehouse were here right now,
that's what I mean.
unless
It's
it's like an anniversary for Amy Winehouse. Anyway, but that one doesn't actually surprise me as much as like poop for nature or whatever the fuck it was. But yeah, like I say, it's just that stupid. Why that stuff's on there? And they're like, whoever put that on there didn't think about the list they were putting up. They're like, this isn't unless one of those things is like a fake thing. Like you click on that poop for trees thing and it's like Black Lives Matter secret website. Could be that. Could be that. Could be some sort of like if you read the code or something, it's some sort of internal like thing. Maybe the protest is smarter than it looks, and they've got like a secret website. Because that's what you think. Like with all this QAnon stuff and all that sort of shit, it's like these people already kind of understand like the espionage of like the world, and how to work around it. So why isn't there somebody like, or is there people in there doing like manipulation with like a few, knowledgeable people?
it must be. I mean, that's absolute nonsense. I mean, I don't understand how that is. Literally, how is Black Lives Matter not on these trending
Yeah, it's
lists?
just bullshit. It's bullshit.
It is the biggest
I'm
thing that's
calling
happening
bullshit.
on the planet right now. I don't.
Yeah,
Does not make sense to me.
no.
Bloody COVID-19 is not even on there for Christ's sake. It's like, who makes
Yeah,
these trending
exactly.
lists? What is the point of them? I don't understand.
Unless it's just some sort of bot thing where they're just like, right, throw out a bot about anything. You know what I mean? Like, so just to cover it up, just have someone click on that site 10,000 times, sort of thing.
We can't black
And
the
that's
Twitter out, but we can like clutter it up with shite.
see, that's one thing I found really weird. Like, I'd not heard anything about it beforehand, but I saw that fucking Blackout Tuesday, which was part of the Black Lives Matter thing. And I'm like, during a protest, for like if I was trying to get my message out, I wouldn't say during the most powerful part of the time, right, as part of getting a message out, we're going to tell people not to use their social media in order to like get people conscious of this thing. You'd be like, this is the time when you want everyone to use their social media and be like, have you fucking seen this? It just seemed like a really like counterproductive thing. I
It
didn't
felt
understand it.
very much like, yeah, like some kind of insider sort of
Yeah,
thing that someone said, like, let's just get that going on. Let's get that trend going as if it's a thing, and then people start doing it and not use
yeah.
social media that
And
day.
like I say, I saw 3 or 4 of my friends that did it, and I'm like, is this a thing, or is this something like that one person heard about, and then they said told what they understood of it to their friend, and then what I mean, it just became a thing because someone did it, and they were like, oh, that's the way we can support, and it's a.
There's been people getting some shit for doing it as well.
I didn't do it. I didn't go anywhere near it. I just
I
didn't
don't
go.
do
I just
anything.
don't post on Facebook, yeah, social media. Yeah, I just chose. I still look at shit. I just don't post anything. Yeah, I mean, I very rarely post anything anyway. But I just chose not to do anything that day. I just like, if it's a blackout, do a blackout. Don't be like, I'm doing a blackout. It's like people's like, I'm doing sober October or sober dry January. I'm just like, good for you.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't give a fuck. You're only doing it so you can say you've done it. Like, just don't drink all the time. Like, don't be an alcoholic and you don't have to do it. Don't get fat. You don't have to go on a diet. That sort of thing. But it's that kind of mentality of like, oh, look at me doing this. Not that the people that were doing it are all like that. Of course, I had some friends do it that were sound, but it just seemed like one of those things. It seemed like the water bucket challenge and stuff, where it's like, look at me doing stuff for charity when actually no one gets anything.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
need a thing like that, and it makes them, especially in the social media era, it makes them feel like that they're doing something. I'm not really doing anything. It's like, what's getting me? It's like it's like now the media, it's like going around one at a time, asking all the black celebrities what their opinion on things is. It's like Lewis Hamilton says this and he says that and whatever. And it's just that is all the media does, isn't it?
Yeah, that's because they want clicks. They're like, oh, I like that person. I've always found the idea of asking like celebrity or most celebrities, anything at all is redundant. It's like,
Mm.
what are your thoughts on this? I'm like, like Lewis Hamilton. I'm sure he's an intelligent dude. He must be to drive the cars and understand them and blah blah blah. But he drives cars for a living. It's not his like, and obviously he's black, but it's like, it's not necessarily his opinion. He's probably got like people that drive race cars from like the age of 14 and learn how to do it through different levels and
It's
stuff.
their
So like
entire
I'm
life.
guessing he
Fairly
probably had
privileged.
opportunities that most black people don't have. Because I don't know any I've never met a race car driver, you know what I mean? So I'm guessing they're like kind of a very niche part of the society. So or like, like there was on this podcast I was watching, they were talking about Serena Williams' husband or one of the Williams, I think it was Serena Williams. Her husband is a politician in America, and he said he's given up his job, and he said he thinks his position should go to a black man, and he's also going to give up any money he earns from that position, like because now he's quit or whatever. Like I don't know, it's American government, so he was like any money I make through that part, I'll also give to the Black Lives Matter thing. And they were saying, that's obviously a good act and stuff. He's a white guy, and he was like, that's a good act and stuff. But his overall wealth was 40 million, $70 million, and Serena Williams' wealth was like $250 million. So it's just like for those people to do that, it's like one of them, like, look what we did, we're so great. But realistically, they're not. They are growing up in and her children and also her have grown up with opportunities that like don't mirror the opportunities of the people that they're talking about. Like, oh yeah, we're trying to help out because we understand the struggle. It's like, no, you don't. It's like you don't understand the struggle of the like people that aren't oppressed, let alone like
Yeah, you don't
like
understand
someone
my
who's been
struggle.
fucking exactly, yeah. You don't understand my struggle. I haven't even got a struggle. You know what I mean? Like it's like even the most wealthy person I know would look at you and be like, damn, they don't understand the struggle. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't know why they talk like that, but. So yeah, I think there's, but I also think that is why most celebrities are keeping stum on this because they're like, we're just gonna like anyone intelligent enough would be like, not my
Well, the thing
fight.
is, I don't understand why any of them jump on Twitter and say anything because it just immediately starts an argument with someone. There's always someone
Yeah,
who's got an alternate
yeah,
opinion.
of
And so I
course.
just feel like, why not just say nothing ever on Twitter? Like, when you're a celebrity, I really don't know
Yeah,
why they say anything. I've seen, what's his name? Patton Oswalt, he's come on and got ripped for something the other day. Like,
Patton Oswalt, who's he? Which one's
see
that?
that little comedian, the fat little one. He's been in loads of films and stuff.
All right, okay.
He's in Agents of Shield, and
Oh yeah, little guy with like a big face. Yeah. He plays. There's twins of him on Warehouse 13. He plays twins. Yep. See, I know what you mean. All right, he came out and said something to me, and then just got ripped to
but it was
pieces.
before this, so I don't know what it was about. It was something about the lockdown. This is what I
Right.
mean. It's like people have been on edge and jumping on each other for so long that I don't know why you'd come out and say anything now. Even people coming out saying things in support of this are getting gripped for stuff.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Why would you say anything then? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, unless you, like I say, if you've got an opinion, by all means say it. But if I had half an opinion, I wouldn't say it. That's my thing. Unless I'm like, right, I need to, like, that's the thing on Facebook. If I very rarely put anything political on Facebook or anything that's like, an opinion of mine, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, it might be like, I think aliens exist, like, so normally I don't put anything like that. But if I were to put something, I'd be like, right, this is, the reason I'm putting this on here is because I actually think it's important. And I think, being that it's probably the one thing I post this year, it'd be specific. But yeah, unless you've got something to say, it's probably not a good idea to come out and say it now. Especially if you're white. Imagine if you come out and said something bad, said something wrong.
I'd happily have a conversation with my friends or a group of friends. If I walk into a place and I'm having this conversation in a beer garden in front of 100 other people that don't know me and all they can hear is me, talking, then they're going to have opinions on what I'm saying because they don't know me. And
Yeah.
that's what Twitter's
Of
like. It
course.
feels. It just feels like you're having a conversation in the wide open with everyone listening, and everyone's going to have an opinion on what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, it's also like the room's really loud and everyone's talking as well, and it's like the people that stand out are the people that shout and say
Exactly.
the most heinous things. It's like part of like it's very difficult to get famous being nice and kind. Like you very rarely see like this guy's trending on Twitter because he's just a nice person.
Yeah, because
I did find a really good video of a guy filming a state trooper who was like doing a car check or something like that. He pulled someone over for a light or something like that, and this guy was chatting to him, but he was like a super nice guy, and he was like, "What are you recording for, man?" He's like, "I just come out and record." He's like, "Why are you out here? You like you state troopers?" And he was like, "I can work this road," and he just had a conversation. And he was like, "Oh, I'm just," he was like, "You know, you seem really like open and like honest and like a real person." He was like, "Yeah, I just think some cops are like robots and they go and do the check, and you know, I just think I just go up and talk to people, and like I'm genuinely interested in finding out about that. I'm not asking them questions just because you know, like I have to check their ID and stuff. I just talk to my people, and then you figure it out and stuff." But it was just like this guy just seemed proper sound. Like you just seemed one of the people you're like, he seems nice. You know, occasionally you meet someone you're like,
figures he'd be the one who turns though. He'd be like the one like, yeah, okay, so why don't you when you step out the car and put your hands on the dashboard before I shoot you in the face?
and then he slams your face in. He's like, get down. Yeah, gonna fuck
I'm going
you
to
up.
cuff you now, and I'm going to beat you with my nightstick unless you empty your pockets right now.
I saw a great clip of George Carlin today talking about on one of his old shows talking about the guy who got a light bulb shoved up his ass. The cops shoved a light bulb up his ass or something like that, and he was like I've got a bit of an issue. Like if you need to train police, they're saying it's a training issue. It's like they should know not to stick a light bulb up your ass. It's like the only thing that should go up your ass is either a fist or something as gentle as a dildo. It was just talking about this stuff. It's like it's about training. It's like if they think that's appropriate, they shouldn't be cops. You should know they shouldn't be cops before they ever did that. They should not have to be told that that was the wrong thing to do. But it was just this big George Carlin sketch. I'm just like George Carlin. But yeah, I was just like, yeah, we need people like that. We need like the George Carlin and the fucking what was his name? What was that white guy called? The one that smoked himself to death. Are you there? Oh, you're there. Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks. You know, we need someone like that right now to be just like, what the fuck is going on? Give us a bit of clarity. Still kind of philosophical with the comedy. There's not a lot of philosophical comedies. Well, there's Dave Chappelle. I can't wait to hear his take on this.
Yeah, that's the point. You'd think someone like him would have come out and said some stuff.
Someone like him for president, I think, anyway, just because he's amazing. Like, he's just one of the people you just like, I want to hang out with him. He seems incredible, but he's also smart and kind of that not give a fuck attitude, just left at his height and just went, I'm done. You guys can deal with this shit. I bet he's got some shit to come out with. But yeah, so I'm surprised he hasn't come out with something. I was watching that his bit about Jesse Smollett the other day as well. That was come up on one of the timelines where he was like, you notice the black community were pretty damn quiet.
Okay, there we go. It just ends again. That's a classic trademark of that famous podcast. I probably just lost energy and I might have fallen asleep, or I probably had a brain aneurysm, to be fair, after listening to all that. Anyway, it's over for another episode. We've been Word of the Horde, that famous podcast. I've been bloody Dan. He's been bloody Chris. Just try not to do anything crazy, you know? Don't go out there into the world and do anything bad. Don't think thoughts. Don't think any of the thoughts that we've been thinking. It's not healthy. I mean, I'm not healthy. I feel ill. I feel ill after listening to that. Don't worry about it. I had to listen to it too. Trust me.